Let's jump into this wild supernatural story. Meet the most popular guy in school, completely cold to everyone. But during gym class, a stray ball lands right near the girls, changing everything. That is when Nara decides to show off her best kick to the guys. But she kicks it so hard her shoe flies off, hitting him directly on the head. He asks if she did it on purpose. She panics, claiming it was just an accident. Nam Gun-woo then stares at the shoe, saying he needs to verify something. He steps incredibly close, making the other girls swoon. Nara is completely frozen, wondering if he just sniffed her, as Gun-woo suddenly backs away while covering his face. She is totally shocked, thinking she smells bad even though she showers daily. But he is not being a creep, he was actually checking a mysterious curse mark on her neck. It looks like an Orochimaru curse is at play here. The moment Gun-woo leaves, the other girls swarm Nara, demanding to know how long they have been dating. They gossip about how incredibly lucky she is to talk to him. Later, alone, Nara wonders what scent he smelled on her. Distracted, she touches a tree, leaving a bizarre, slimy purple mark behind. Suddenly, an invisible countdown reveals she only has 4 hours left to live. Right where she touched, a creepy evil spirit begins to manifest on the bark. Back in class, Nara observes Nam Gun-woo. He is handsome, athletic, and has this crazy aura that draws everyone in, even upperclassmen who visit just to get a glimpse of him. She is impressed, seeing him taking diligent notes, cementing his status as the perfect student. But looking closer, she realizes he is actually a total weirdo. Instead of actual class notes, his notebook is filled with silly doodles and random facts about loving sausages. Nara realizes he is incredibly strange, and it gets even weirder. He constantly talks to himself, literally debating his lunch options out loud. After class, Gun-woo approaches her and claims he finally identified the scent she is carrying. Annoyed, Nara asks why he is obsessing over this. He then drops a bombshell. The scent belongs to a fox, and the mark on her neck is a deadly curse. Now pay attention, because things go from normal to deadly in an instant. Nara has exactly 5 seconds left to live, still trying to convince herself that curses are just nonsense. Terrified, she drops her trash, screaming that magic is not real. But when the timer hits 3, Gun-woo grabs her hand, asking if she truly does not understand the mark. Suddenly, the wall explodes. The count hits 2 as a runaway truck barrels straight toward her. Behind the wheel, a horrifying evil spirit is driving. The timer ticks down to 1. Right before impact, Gun-woo shoves her out of the way, saving her life. As the truck smashes into the wall, Nara hits the ground, completely dazed and utterly confused. Seconds later, she passes out and experiences a wild out-of-body moment, looking down at herself and wondering if she just died. While Nara floats, Gun-woo desperately slaps her face, yelling at her to wake up, but she is completely unresponsive. That is when the dark spirit from the truck driver starts to take form. It targets Nara's soul, whispering that it has waited 17 long years for this. Now that this hunter's descendant has turned 17, the fox spirit can finally harvest her soul. As the spirit wraps around Nara, dragging her away, she screams. Suddenly, a massive punch from Gun-woo completely shatters the slimy phantom. She cannot believe he just punched a ghost, but he grabs her spirit, claiming he can see her perfectly. Spinning her around, he tells her to hold still, leaps up, flips her upside down, and violently shoves her back into her own body. Hiding inside a closet, she hears a deep voice claiming the room is empty. But looking out, it is not a human. It is a giant tiger holding a knife in its mouth. The beast swears it smelled someone, but sees nothing as it looks around. It stares right toward Nara with glowing green eyes, but somehow looks right through her, growling in confusion. Terrified, she convinces herself this is just a dream. Suddenly, Gun-woo flings the closet open, scaring Nara so badly she bolts, thinking the tiger found her. Realizing it is just him, she catches her breath and asks if he saw the talking beast. He calls her crazy, but she insists it was real. He simply points at a tiny tiger cub, dryly calling it a kitten. Just then, his mother, Nam Oren, walks in, asking if Nara is his girlfriend, which he immediately denies, saying they are just classmates. Nara finally connects the dots, realizing that terrifying deep voice actually belonged to his mother, who is shockingly gorgeous in person. Oren immediately spots the dark mark on Nara's neck. Though Gun-woo tries to kick Nara out, his mother shuts him down and invites her to dinner, just as his brothers show up. Meet Nam Guihan, 27, and Nam Hondo, 18. Nara recognizes Hondo as the ultra-popular senior at her school who wants to be an actor, realizing up close that he is insanely good-looking. She cannot stop staring at Hondo, convinced he looks like a top-tier celebrity already. But their mother interrupts her thoughts, calling everyone to the table because dinner is finally ready. You and I both know family dinners can be awkward, but this? Absolute chaos. The mother is staring a hole through her, while the middle brother looks ready to throw hands. To make things weirder, Gunwoo is dead silent, and the family cat is literally eating at the table. Uncomfortable. She desperately wants to escape. The only normal one is the oldest brother, Guihan, who politely tells Nara to make herself at home and offers her some food. Suddenly, Nara spots a white feather on Guihan's shoulder and reaches to pluck it. Instantly, the room goes silent. Gunwoo screams at her to stop, but her fingers make contact. The moment she touches it, a massive white wing bursts from Guihan's back. He shrieks in terror, starting to float straight toward the ceiling. Nara wonders if he is some beautiful angel, but that dream dies instantly when Guihan morphs into a giant chicken. Gunwoo sighs, muttering that dinner is completely ruined. He demands to know how she managed to force his brother to transform back. That is when his mother drops a massive truth bomb. Nara is actually a legendary hunter's descendant. Seeing her chance, the cat asks to drop the act, morphing right into a little girl. But her mother immediately scolds her because her fuzzy tiger tail is still showing. This triggers an argument about eating garlic, and Hondo absolutely loses it. He is sick of having garlic in everything, from pancakes to cake, calling it literal terrorism on his taste buds. Furious at his whining, his mother demands he eat in silence. A dark, terrifying aura flares up around her as she suddenly spits directly onto her son's forehead. A total germaphobe, Hondo panics in absolute disgust, transforming into a giant pig. But once he is a pig, his entire attitude does a complete 180. He begins inhaling every dish on the table, squealing with joy and clearing plates in seconds. Nara cannot believe her school's most popular heartthrob is literally a greedy swine. Dinner descends into total chaos as Hondo screams at his mother for spitting. Gihan whines about inviting strangers, while the little girl fights Gunwoo over pretending to be a cat. Frustrated, the mother snaps, transforming into a massive tiger. Trust me, you and I need to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are about to watch our main character, Nara. Realize that the tiger in her room was actually real. She instantly snaps a photo on her phone, making the animal face family panic and scream at her to delete it. Terrified out of her mind, Nara asks if they are going to eat her alive. The mother calms down, claiming it is just a huge misunderstanding, and starts sharing the famous legend of Dangan. You know, the classic tale where a bear and a tiger tried to become human inside a cave. But she reveals that other beasts were hidden in that cave too. Her family actually descends from those failed creatures who never managed to turn human. Gunwoo panics, demanding to know why his mom is exposing their family secrets to a classmate. But Nara ignores him, asking Gunwoo the ultimate question: is he a monster too? Instead of answering normally, a creepy, mischievous grin spreads across Gunwoo's face while his family watches in pure shock. The chicken calls it embarrassing, and the pig argues they must be human since animals do not talk. Gunwoo finally claims he is normal, but his mother cuts in with a chilling tone. She tells Nara it all depends on perspective. Are they the monsters, or is Nara the hunter? Placing a heavy hand on her shoulder, she warns that their meeting could easily become a deadly burden. But on the bright side, she adds, if they look at each other as humans, then this whole thing might just be fate. She asks Nara which path she will choose. Suddenly, the mother shifts back to her normal form, pointing directly to the fox curse mark on Nara's body while holding up a strange paper talisman. She explains that because Nara cheated death and survived that nasty curse, her life is about to change forever starting tomorrow. She hands over the talisman, telling Nara to stick it on her door for protection because that symbol connects them. With that, she casually tells the girl to head home. Watch closely here. Nara takes the charm and leaves, completely baffled by how a piece of paper could connect people. Feeling a creepy vibe, she decides she is done with this magic stuff. On pure impulse, she tosses the charm into the dirt and bolts. Back at the house, Gunwoo's brother doubts their decision, asking if letting her go was really a good idea. The mother calmly replies that the girl will definitely return. If she does not, she will just end up killed by the fox anyway. Meanwhile, Nara stops running, catching her breath and feeling glad she escaped that house of freaks. But here is the creepy part: the talisman she threw on the ground has somehow slipped right back into her backpack. Back home, she ignores her mother's nagging and collapses into bed. Today was a total disaster. She got hit by a truck, nearly lost her soul to a fox, and learned that shapeshifters exist. Talk about a bad day. She prays it was all just a massive fever dream. But the next morning, her mom screams at her to wake up for school. Realizing she is super late, Nara scrambles out the door with a half-washed face and no breakfast. It seems like a typical chaotic morning, but things go sideways the second she reaches the bus stop. Sitting right on a commuter's shoulders is a hideous, terrifying monster. Nara freezes in absolute horror, especially when the creature locks eyes with her and asks what she is staring at. Panic sets in as Nara realizes she is seeing a literal ghost in broad daylight. Knowing she is the only one who can see it, she tries to play it cool and look away. But the spirit snarls, threatening to rip her eyes out if she looks at its human again. Remembering Gun Wu's warning, Nara runs, only to realize the entire city is crawling with ghosts. Now, I know what you were thinking. How does she survive this massive nightmare? Nara sprints all the way to school, but opening her everyday classroom door instantly freezes her blood. The entire room is packed with ghosts, sitting at desks and hovering near the teacher. They all glare at her, whispering and demanding to know her name, until a normal classmate calls her over. Terrified, Nara slams the door shut. Her ordinary school route and daily routine now feel like they belong to a horrifying fantasy realm. Her peaceful teenage life is officially ruined. She forces herself to sit through math, but the spirits swarm her desk, loudly mocking her for not knowing the answers. They whisper nasty insults directly into her head about how she will never get into college, while a dead construction worker brags about building the school. They pressure her about her grades and her near-death accident. More and more ghosts crowd around, growing suspicious of her intense shaking. They start whispering, realizing that she might actually be able to see them. Nara desperately tries to ignore them, but tears are already streaming down her face from pure fear. Just then, Gun Wu stands up and strides over to her desk. He stands right before her and glares. Instantly, the classroom ghosts fall silent. With a wave of his hand, Gun Wu uses a burst of magic to banish every single spirit, slamming the door shut. After class, Nara grabs his arm, begging to talk. She points fearfully at a ghost lurking under a tree, but Gun Wu calmly explains it is just a harmless lunch lady who always begs him to eat. He shoos the ghost away, joking that he is eating healthy today. Next, he points out Mr. Kim, the construction worker who never shuts up about building the school, and Mr. Park, a friendly guardian spirit who just loves watching students read books. Gun Wu explains that a hidden world exists right beside theirs, and ghosts are just like regular humans. While some are good, others are truly malevolent, like the fox that tried to steal her soul. He asks if she still has the talisman his mother gave her, noting how shocked he was that his mom handed over something so precious. Nara panics, remembering she threw that incredibly vital paper in the trash. Nara lies through her teeth, claiming the talisman is safe at home. Gun Wu warns her that if she wants to stay alive, she must stick it to her front door. Worried about explaining to her mom that she threw away a magical artifact, she heads home. Smelling a delicious dinner, Nara decides to take a quick shower before eating. But as she washes her face, a creepy voice echoes in the steam, whispering how delicious she smells. Irritated and thinking it is her uncle being weird, she tells him to get out. Right after, her mom calls out that she is running to the store to buy some tofu, leaving Nara to watch the stove. Nara, still annoyed, assumes it was her uncle creeping around. Angry, she storms into his room and yells at him for not knocking. Her uncle, busy on his computer, looks incredibly confused and quickly shuts his laptop so she does not see anything. Climbing the stairs, she finally realizes her fatal mistake. A massive, horrific monster is crawling up the steps, and she immediately connects the dots. The beast was mimicking her uncle. Horrified, Nara sprints to her bedroom and locks the door tight, vividly recalling Gun Wu's warning about malevolent spirits. The creature slithers to her door, mimicking her uncle's voice, and tries to phase through the wall. It easily bypasses her standard home protection amulets, but her special necklace suddenly flares with mystical energy, keeping the monster from getting fully inside. Desperate, she grabs the heavy weights her uncle bought her and scrambles to arrange them on the floor in a cross shape. But she knocks the weights over, and the monster grabs her neck. Trust me, you're going to want to see how she escapes this soul-snatching beast next time. Alright, you and I are jumping into a crazy fight where she swings her backpack with all her might, only to realize the protective paper talisman she threw away was actually inside it, blasting the monster back. Recalling En's warning, she scrambles to slap the charm on her bedroom door, but terror takes over and she collapses to the floor, completely paralyzed. The horrifying specter locks her in place. In a desperate panic, she begins chucking pens at the beast, which obviously does nothing except make it even more furious. Screaming, the monster slams her against the wall and starts ripping the soul right out of her body. Just as she is about to be eaten, she notices the closet door. Gathering her last bit of strength, she refuses to die here and slaps the talisman right on it. At first, nothing happens as the beast inches closer. But suddenly, the paper charm erupts in a blinding, brilliant glow. The closet door bursts open and a hand reaches out, grabbing the spirit. To her absolute relief, Nam Gun Wu steps out. He restrains the frozen beast while the terrified girl begs for help, feeling her very soul slipping away. A surge of wild electricity crackles around Gunwoo's hand. He strikes the monster, ripping a chunk out of its body and forcing it to let her go. The beast regrows its hands, now tiny and mutated, and lunges again. Gunwoo dodges effortlessly, even finding time mid-battle to ask the poor girl if she finished her Korean homework. She screams to warn him of a surprise attack from behind, but he is already ahead. He spins, delivering a devastating electric punch that floors the spirit. Wasting no time, he unleashes a barrage of heavy kicks. The furious monster rises, opening its massive jaws to swallow him whole. But Gunwoo simply charges up his fist again, delivering one final, devastating blow that obliterates the beast for good. The monster shrieks in agony as its body dissolves into thin air, releasing dozens of tiny specters that scatter in all directions. Now pay attention here, Gunwoo explains those were actually souls eaten by a monster called anicap. When an evil ghost devours souls, it becomes a specter. He captures its essence in a glass jar, sealing it with a talisman so it never returns. With the threat neutralized, he nonchalantly steps back into her closet to leave. Confused, the girl points toward the actual front door, but when she blinks, he has already vanished into thin air. She throws the closet doors open to search for him, only to step directly into his bedroom. Gunwoo explains this special talisman is called the Rabbit's Den, which physically links two doors together. Right then, his mother walks in, casually asking how the hunt went. That is when Nara finally reaches her breaking point, bursting into tears over how terrifying it was. His mother drops a truth bomb. The real issue is Nara. Her soul acts like a delicious, glowing beacon, drawing hungry specters who are driven by an insatiable urge to devour everything in sight. Gunwoo's mother explains that to these creatures of the dark, Nara's soul is free game. That dark curse is the absolute, terrifying truth behind the strange mark on her neck. From now on, every specter that catches the scent of this curse will hunt her down. And once that ancient fox recovers its strength, she is its prime target. Terrified, Nara begs to know how to stop this, but the mother's reply is cold and brutal. She is going to die very soon. Nara is completely shattered, realizing she might never go to college, fall in love, or even make it past her 17th birthday before her life is cut short. But there is still one saving grace. Gunwoo is going to be her protector. The boy looks completely miserable about this arrangement, but he ultimately agrees to do it. He complains to his mother, asking why he has to guard Nara, but she points out that the Rabbit's Den talisman has already bound their two rooms together. Annoyed by his attitude, his mother transforms into a massive tiger, challenging him. While he backs down, Nara feels a spark of hope. She remembers Gunwoo already defeated the fox and captured that terrifying spirit. If he keeps guarding her, she might actually survive. She starts thanking him endlessly, but Gunwoo's mother quickly cuts her off, reminding her that nothing in this world comes for free. A terrified Nara wonders if the price is her very soul, but they want something else. In exchange for keeping her alive, she must bring them a legendary relic of Dangan. Now, you and I are about to see a major twist. The mother reveals Nara's grandmother was a legendary fox hunter whose power came from Dangan's own thumb ring. Nara is totally lost, explaining her grandmother died years ago and she never heard of any ring. Gunwoo's mother assures her that a mythical relic like that recognizes its bloodline. Since she is the true heir, the ring will find its way back to her hands soon. With survival on the line, Nara accepts the deal. Later, staring at an old family photo in her room, she wonders who her grandmother truly was. Her mom always avoided talking about her grandmother, only mentioning she spent half the year away from home. Now Nara finally realizes she was out hunting foxes. As she wonders where the relic could be hidden, she gets ready for bed, but freezes midway. She suddenly remembers the portal connecting her closet directly to Gunwoo's room, instantly feeling incredibly awkward about the absolute lack of privacy. The next morning, while getting dressed for school, Nara jumps as Gunwoo casually steps out of her closet, demanding to see her Korean homework. He takes her books and leaves, prompting her to scream at him to stop invading her room. Meanwhile, back at Gunwoo's house, his mother is closely watching the trapped evil spirit. Suddenly, a man named Pungbak climbs right through her window. She scolds him for not using the front door, but he scoffs, telling her she is acting far too human. For a wild beast, entering through a window is actually polite. Pungbak warns her that their time is running out. If she genuinely wants to become human, she must work harder to cleanse this world and capture more malicious spirits. He warns that before Dangan returns, they must gather enough good deeds, or remain beasts forever. Meanwhile, back in her room, Nara hears a loud electric guitar blaring from her closet. Irated, she flings the door open to find Gunwoo rocking out on his guitar in nothing but his underwear. She snaps at him to shut it down because she is trying to sleep. He mutters that it is just rock and roll, but finally stops and lies down. In the quiet room, she softly thanks him for saving her earlier. He hears her, but stays silent. Even separated by walls, that strange connection makes them feel remarkably close. They start walking to school together, which immediately sets off the rumor mill. Their classmates start whispering, assuming Gunwoo and Lee Nara are secretly dating. The local girls burn with jealousy, and all this toxic, negative energy attracts a dark spirit that watches them with absolute rage. Cornered by jealous classmates, Lee Nara desperately denies they are dating, terrified of bringing more danger upon herself. Suddenly, the furious spirit creeps up, screaming that she is a liar. It screeches the word repeatedly until a piercing shriek drains Lee Nara's energy. Gunwoo spots the hateful spirit gliding past, but cannot figure out what just happened. The ghost floats toward the stairwell, muttering that Lee Nara is a wicked girl. Just then, a sinister voice echoes from the shadows, offering its help. It is the ancient fox spirit, proposing to wipe Nara out. Without hesitation, it devours the schoolgirl ghost. The monster swells, mutating into a grotesque, sludge-dripping hybrid. Creeping up the stairs, the beast realizes it needs more power. It must feed on other ghosts. It immediately spots its next target, the lunchbox ghost sitting in a nearby tree. The fox spirit slithers up the school walls, cornering the helpless lunchbox ghost. Without a moment of hesitation, the monster mocks its prey and devours the poor creature whole. And that is where we leave things today, as class ends and Nara heads home, finding the silent, empty school incredibly eerie. All right, you and I are jumping into a crazy mystery. As they leave, Woo asks Lenara about any ghosts nearby, only for her to notice that even the friendly lunchbox spirit has completely vanished. This instantly sets off alarm bells for Woo. Whipping out a piece of chalk, he quickly draws a massive protective circle on the ground and tells her to step right into the center. He explains that this boundary will hide her from the evil spirits roaming around. Telling her not to step outside under any circumstances, he promises to quickly investigate the situation and return to her shortly. Nara anxiously asks if things are that bad, but he stays silent and slips away. Gunwoo cautiously sneaks into a dark corridor of the school, heading straight up toward the restrooms. Arriving there, he senses an incredibly powerful energy masking itself. Opening one of the stall doors, he is shocked to find all the school's ghosts crammed inside, shivering in absolute terror. When he demands to know what is going on, the terrified spirits beg him to quiet down, whispering that a monstrous Aonkwi is currently stalking the hallways. But before Woo can even blink, the monstrous fox spirit lunges out and swallows every single ghost whole, mutating into a colossal, terrifying beast. Stunned by the horror, Gunwoo stands his ground as the creature demands to know where Nara is hiding. Meanwhile, waiting inside the circle, Nara grows terrified. She desperately spams text to Gunwoo, begging him to come back. He sees the messages light up his screen, but he cannot reply while staring down the deadly fox. The monster growls that she could sense Lenara's presence just a second ago before she suddenly vanished. Seeing his ghost friends brutally eaten right in front of him sparks an intense, blinding rage inside Gunwoo as deadly energy erupts from his body. The fox sneers, accusing him of ruining her revenge. Saying she has no interest in other humans, she offers him a simple deal. If he sells out the girl, he lives. But watch carefully. Without hesitating, Gunwoo unleashes a massive, magic-charged punch straight into her face, launching her backward. From inside her stomach, the swallowed spirit of Mr. Park groans that the hit really hurt. Caught off guard by the voice, Gunwoo fails to block as the beast lashes out with one of her giant 9 tails, smashing him violently into a bathroom stall. The monster brags that she ate the souls too quickly and hasn't digested them yet. Enraged, Gunwoo charges back in, delivering a rapid sequence of devastating punches directly into her gut. His strikes hit so hard they force her to throw up the soul of Mr. Park, who quickly thanks Gunwoo before vanishing to safety. The fox casually spits that old ghosts taste terrible. Gunwoo realizes this is no ordinary demon. Despite devouring so many souls at once, her mind remains completely clear and highly focused. Regaining her composure, the fox gets ready to fight for real. Gunwoo vows to keep beating her until every single spirit is freed. He channels power into his fists, but a ghost suddenly pops out of a toilet bowl. He dodges just in time, realizing it was all a fake. The devious fox had disguised one of her tails as a toilet to trap him. She sinisterly warns him to watch his step. Looking down, Gunwoo notices the floor is covered in razor-sharp teeth, jumping back right as they snap shut. While airborne, he spots that even the ceiling lights are hidden traps. He kicks off the ceiling to vault back down, narrowly avoiding another phantom stall snapping at his legs. Realizing her 9 tails are generating these tricks, He ignores the illusions entirely, driving a brutal knee straight into the fox's jaw. He follows up with a heavy downward hammer fist that slams the beast onto the floor. But as Gunwoo prepares for the finishing blow, a stray tail wraps around his arm, halting his strike. Gazing down, he sees his arm morphing into a monstrous, clawed limb crackling with pure, raw power. The fox mocks him, asking why a monster of his kind fights so hard to defend mere humans. She sneers that once those humans witness his true, beastly nature, they will only look at him with utter horror and disgust. She snarls that his desperate urge for human love makes her sick. But Gunwoo coldly replies that it is none of her business, and unlike her, he does not survive by eating people. Forcing his arm back to normal, he charges his fist with massive energy, promising a severe beating. With pure hatred in their eyes, they lunge at each other. Gunwoo lands a devastating punch directly on her snout, the shockwave echoing so loudly that Nara hears it clear across the courtyard. Gripped by worry, she contemplates leaving the chalk circle to check, but she hesitates. I know what you were thinking, just stay in the safe zone, right? Well, a clumsy kid on a bicycle suddenly crashes straight into her, shattering all her safety. It is none other than Hando Sunbi, asking why she is there. But in the crash, his bike tire rolls over the chalk, smudging the barrier and leaving Nara completely exposed. Instantly, the mysterious mark on Nara's neck flares to life. Sensing her spiritual signature, the fox pinpoints her coordinates, abandons the bathroom fight, and speeds away to claim her target. Junwoo panics, realizing the demon is rushing straight for Nara. Within seconds, a wave of dark sludge pools in front of the terrified girl, forming a massive maw that threatens to devour her whole. Nara blocks her face in sheer panic, bracing for the worst. But as the fox snaps its jaws, an invisible force stops it from touching her. Hando Sunbi, the middle brother, has erected a powerful magical barrier. The fox glares down at the glowing magic circle on the ground, preventing her from taking another step. Repulsed by the beast's hideous appearance, Hando channels bright light magic to blast her back. He dramatically claims that such ugliness cannot taint his unmatched beauty, activating a radiant, untouchable aura. Nara sweat drops, wondering how narcissism can actually be this effective. The confused fox demands to know what kind of hunter she is facing. Suddenly, Hando notices a few drops of the monster's gross sludge have splattered onto his skin. He is utterly disgusted by the filth, but then horror strikes. His hand begins transforming into a pig's trotter. Ashamed of this ugly curse, he desperately hides his hand. Just then, Gyunwoo catches up and begs his brother to shield Nara. The fox laughs, warning them that the girl's soul is already hers. Ignoring her, Hando pulls Nara onto his bike and starts pedaling away fast. Nara protests, asking if he is seriously just leaving Gyunwoo behind. Hando explains that fighting will trigger his curse, turning him into a literal pig. Fearing that gross fate, he pushes his pedals to the metal and flees the scene as fast as possible. The relentless fox gives chase at high speed, tailing them closely. Hando loudly blames Nara for this entire mess, and as she nearly slips off on a sharp turn, he catches her by her uniform tie. Suddenly, the fox bursts through a solid wall, snapping her jaws and engulfing them both in dark sludge. Just in time, Gunwoo flies in with a crushing kick, blasting the beast away and saving them from a gruesome end. Drenched in the monster's sludge, Hando's irritation peaks as he realizes he's about to undergo a full pig transformation right in public. Nara bluntly points out that he seems to be ballooning. The fox watches, realizing this guy is far from a normal human as the mutation accelerates. Junwoo tries to intervene, but a transforming Hando is already pedaling wildly. He streaks across a busy street, swerving past a mother with a stroller, yanks his bike through a sharp turn, and launches right off a massive overpass, catching air before gravity takes over. They plummet down a ridiculously steep, sketchy ramp, crashing headfirst into a massive pile of garbage at the bottom. After the impact, Hando is fully turned into a giant, furious pig, still pedaling his tiny bike. Junwoo slides down the same ramp, instantly catching up with them. Unleashing an incredibly terrifying aura, Gunwoo prepares to face the fox. His pig brother warns him to stay calm, but Gunwoo tells the giant hog to stop running and help fight. Will they survive? We'll find out next time. Let's dive into this epic fight as the fox lunges. But our giant pig uses his massive weight to land a brutal kick, instantly shutting the beast down. Nam Gyunwoo seizes his chance, channeling pure spiritual energy into his fist before unleashing an absolute nuke of a punch. The blast hits the fox head-on, shattering the spirit and leaving Nara completely stunned by their raw power. But with its final breath, the remnant of the fox wraps around Nara before vanishing into thin air. The poor girl collapses instantly, sending the panicked brothers rushing right over to her. Terrified, the giant pig thinks she is dead, But Nam tells him to stop overreacting. He explains she only fainted because her soul literally escaped her body, leaving them wondering where it could have flown off to. Convinced the fox used transformation magic to hide her soul nearby, Nam immediately starts smashing every random object in sight. He punches a tree and elbows a wooden post, desperately hunting for her soul and even busting his own hand. Meanwhile, Linara's spirit wanders through a cold, endless dark void, feeling totally empty. The souls of Mr. Kim, that construction worker, and the schoolwoman suddenly appear, screaming at her to run. But before she can even move, a disgusting sludge tentacle from the fox snatches her ankle, dragging her down into the abyss. Terrified, she spots a glowing light and slips through a rift, dropping right into an ancient memory. There, a weeping man laments failing his promise because cruel humans slaughtered his beloved wife and their innocent child. Nara realizes she is witnessing the fox's tragic past and the source of its deep-seated hatred. But suddenly, the vision shifts, pulling her into a memory of her own family. She witnesses her grandmother, who once ate fox livers, bringing a terrible generational curse upon their entire bloodline. Yet, the old woman shielded baby Nara with her very life. Suddenly, the puzzle pieces fall into place. That ancient grudge became the birthmark curse she has carried on her neck forever. In the background, her mother's frantic voice echoes, screaming at the grandmother that she simply cannot take this madness anymore. The memory replays her mother walking out with baby Linara in her arms. Her grandmother begged her to stay, warning that leaving without lifting the curse meant certain death for the infant. But her mother was done with the ghost stories, shouting she would raise Lara normally, far away from this curse. But here's the thing, this memory does not belong to Linara, it belongs to the fox. Suddenly, those dark sludge tentacles wrap around Linara again. The fox reveals it has lived inside her for 17 years, watching her grow up happy and loved. It realized its own slaughtered child could have had that very same beautiful life. The fox never actually hated Linara, it just mourned the child who never got to grow up. Now, pay attention here, because the entire scene suddenly shifts. Lyra, floating as a spirit, finds herself in yet another memory, watching her grandmother from years ago. Desperate, she screams out to grab her attention. And that is when the impossible happens. Her grandmother, deep inside that old memory, actually hears her granddaughter's voice echoing from the future. Linara screams that the fox has swallowed her whole, begging for help. Reacting in real time, the grandmother reaches through time, grabbing her granddaughter's spiritual hand. She tells Linara not to let the darkness consume her, urging her to fight back with everything. In that split second, Nara discovers the sacred ring, which is the legendary relic of Danun. This impossible meeting of past and present tears, a massive rift directly through the spiritual realm. This force exposes both the fox and Linara. Even though she feels the monster's agonizing pain, Linara demands to know why it had to take its fury out on her. Channeling the relic's raw energy, she unleashes a crushing strike that obliterates the evil spirit. Immediately, her soul drifts toward the dark void, but Nam Yunwoo grabs her hand, anchoring her spirit back to her body. When Lyra finally wakes up, she sees the gentle school spirits are finally set free. One last shred of the fox tries to flee, but Suni the pig traps it in a talisman-sealed capsule once and for all. Now that the battle is over, Gunwoo needs to reunite Lyra's soul with her body. Warning her is going to hurt. He skips any ceremony and just shoves her spirit straight back inside. The pain is absolutely blinding. But wait, look closely, because a massive burst of blue energy suddenly explodes from her, shocking everyone. She snaps her eyes open, clutching the legendary relic of Danun, her grandmother's ring. Absolutely drained after all the chaos, the hungry trio decides to hit up a local convenience store for a quick bite. Over food, Nam asks about the relic. Nara explains the impossible, that her grandmother literally handed it to her from inside a memory, shattering the barriers of time and space. His brother jokes she must have hit her head, since a mere memory cannot recognize a real person. Lyra admits she has no idea how it worked, but she does not care. She is just happy she got to speak to her grandmother, even for a fleeting second. Back home, they hand the sealed fox soul to their mother, who instantly falls under the ring's spell. She explains this sacred relic amplifies spiritual power 100-fold, instantly sparking everyone's greed. The mother is the first to slip it on, but the ring rejects her, leaping off her finger. Naturally, the older brother demands his turn, claiming birthright over the relic. He puts it on, and for a glorious second, a bright light shines as gorgeous angel wings sprout from his back. But the glory vanishes instantly, and he turns into a literal chicken, flopping onto a chair. The ring flies off and lands perfectly back in Linara's hands. Nam Yunwoo declares that the relic has officially chosen its master. Clueless about its insane value, she just slips it onto her thumb. Instantly, a blinding flash fills the room. The house rattles violently as howling winds whip through. Suddenly, a metallic, blood-red liquid pools on the table, and the crushing energy forces everyone to lose control, instantly morphing into their beast forms. And right in the middle of all this chaos, a mysterious glowing figure appears, floating silently in the air. An old man draped in wild animal pelts introduces himself as the ancient god of hunters. He reveals he has been waiting for the ring's next true master, declaring Lenara as the chosen one. With the family frozen in place, the old deity offers to share a hidden truth. He warns her that there are bloodthirsty beasts wandering the world, wearing human skins to sow ultimate chaos. Hearing this, her transformed family standing right behind him starts sweating bullets. Sensing the immediate danger, Lyra desperately tries to distract the old man before they get busted. He warns that evil entities are naturally drawn to this ring, and because Nara is so pure, she will face brutal trials. Before vanishing, he leaves her with a choice on how to use it, and one final warning: never trust the beasts. With those parting words, the ancient god vanishes. The second he is gone, the terrified family stops playing dead and instantly reverts to normal. Lyra is left completely bewildered, realizing she is now a hunter who refuses to hunt. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the family's pig, Punbaek, takes a bath and smoothly shifts back into his human form. Flexing in the mirror, he notices a glowing red +1 mark on his back, proof of his high-tier spiritual status. Stunned, since he has never seen such power in the fox tribe, he asks the matriarch how she even tracked him down. The matriarch simply shrugs, calling it a closely guarded family secret. Back at her desk, Nara mentions to her friend, Nam Gun Woo, that even her pencil is glowing now. Giggling, she jokes about being a magical girl who will fight off monsters with a pencil. Annoyed, the boy snaps at her to finish her homework. But she just uses her hair tie as a makeshift slingshot and fires it. The pencil rockets off like an arrow, blasting a clean hole through the wall and soaring past skyscrapers over the horizon. Shocked by her own broken strength, her friend quickly tells her to do it again. Leveraging her hair tie and the powered thumb ring, she launches another pencil. But this time, the projectile flies straight into her mother, who had chosen the absolute worst second to walk through the door. And that is where we leave it, with the raging mother morphing into a giant tiger, screaming that she is going to destroy them both. All right, you and I are jumping right back into the madness. Once the chaos clears and Mom turns human again, she warns Nara that the magical pencil went chasing evil, and she needs way more training. This gets our girl thinking. If that arrow only targets pure evil, then why did it strike her own mother? Remembering the deity's warning about trusting beasts, Nara starts doubting her family. Later that night, she sneaks back to her room through the closet, skips her homework, and crashes out. But in the dead of night, Nara wakes up craving a late-night snack and heads down to the kitchen. The moment she shuts the fridge door, she comes face to face with a creepy spirit standing right there. Terrified, she tries to walk away like nothing happened, but painful groans stop her. The ghost has her pencil stabbed in its chest and demands she pull it out. By morning, poor Nara is completely drained. She did not sleep a wink because those ghouls kept torturing her in her nightmares. She realizes the pencil started all this chaos, and she has to find it if she ever wants to sleep again. On her way, she realizes that her silly throw basically stirred up a massive hornet's nest of spirits. Her search brings her straight to an eerie abandoned house from her childhood memories. She used to be so terrified of this spot she would walk miles to avoid it. Even grown-ups stay far away, making her wonder why she even came here. Rumor has it the old owners died of some freaky illness, and lately, local thugs have been using the creepy old place as a shady hideout for their crimes. Inside, this guy Mew is teasing his crew for being scared, joking about what they will tell the cops. Suddenly, one of the guys tells the girl in their gang to put out her cigarette because the smoke is ruining his clothes. But here's the catch. Nobody was actually smoking. A thick, eerie fog starts rolling into the room, slowly twisting into a horrifying monster with razor-sharp teeth. The second they spot the ghoul, these tough guys lose their minds in panic. Meanwhile, our main girl Nara is just arriving outside. Now check this out. The whole place is taped off because those kids vanished into thin air, and of course, our curious girl decides she has to go take a look. She spots a massive twisted tree towering over the yard. And believe it or not, her magical pencil is wedged deep inside the trunk. It flew incredibly far to land here. Nara remembers the matriarch's wisdom about the hunter's arrow, or in this case her pencil, always tracking down dark, evil energy. The vibe here is incredibly dark. She knows those terrifying dream demons will keep tormenting her forever if she doesn't pull that pencil out of the tree. Freaking out, she whispers to the spirit to bring her the pencil. But the ghost completely ignores her. Sensing she has no other choice and nobody is watching, She decides to just go in and grab it fast. But the second she steps onto the lawn, the ground gives way and she tumbles down a deep hole, landing in pitch black darkness. Slamming her back against a car, she realizes she is trapped in a creepy underground garage. It is totally pitch black, and she immediately starts panic planning her escape. There has to be an exit, but the place is massive and she is hopelessly lost. Using her phone flashlight to find a way out, she spots giant, ancient tree roots bursting through the concrete walls. She spots lit candles, proving someone was here. Then, a creepy sound echoes through the dark, confirming her absolute worst nightmare. She is not alone. Whipping her phone around, the light reveals those 3 missing teenagers and a bunch of others. They are shuffling around like brainless, empty-eyed zombies. Meanwhile, a man named Nam and Nara's mother are totally baffled. They can't figure out why the family curse hasn't been lifted yet. While Mom searches for the missing Fox vessel, guess who just stumbled right onto it? Deep in the garage, Nara finds the tree covered in talismans and sealed spirit jars. One container, right in the middle, seems to hold the Fox spirit. Before she can process this, a ghost appears behind her as the zombies start surrounding her. Nara screams at them to back off, but they keep coming. As they lunge, she dodges, pockets her phone, and braces for the worst. Just then, her dream ghost appears floating in the air with a deal. If she pulls her pencil from the tree, he will help her escape, pointing to a wooden log she can climb. Without hesitating, Nara starts climbing like crazy, but the zombie horde catches up, grabbing her ankle to drag her back into the dark pit. They claw at her with twisted, freaky faces, but she fights back, landing a brutal kick right to a zombie's face that sends him flying. Spotting a glint of daylight, she reaches out and manages to haul herself out of the underground, popping up right at the base of the massive tree. Relieved to be alive with just minor scratches, she turns to retrieve her pencil. But right as she reaches, one of the missing girls bursts from the soil and grabs her ankle, trying to drag her back down. Nara clings to the tree, noticing the blonde girl is crying hysterically. Breaking free from her grip, Nara pulls her pencil out of the trunk. Immediately, nasty black slime oozes from the bark. The pencil had impaled a disgusting, insect-like evil spirit, which rapidly melts into thin air. For a second, everything is quiet. But just as she lets her guard down, a massive foot smashes out of the trunk, and a giant monster emerges, celebrating its freedom. Locked away for 70 long years, the raging beast curses a man named Pungbake and vows bloody revenge. Petrified, Nara realizes she has unleashed something absolutely catastrophic. The monster roars in agony, saying it had to watch its family get destroyed from inside the tree, completely helpless to stop it. Meanwhile, a mysterious suited man silently watches the scene unfold. Spotting him, the beast orders him down. It is Pungbek, appearing instantly and declaring the seal should have remained unbroken. Ignoring his words, the beast charges, but Pungbek teleports into the air, landing a brutal dropkick that sends the giant crashing down. Pungbek demands to know who broke the seal, while Nara quickly hides her pencil, acting totally innocent. He then orders the monster back inside the trunk. Furious, the giant ogre gets up and lands a heavy blow on Pungbek's chest, barely flinching him. The beast tries to crush him next, but Pungbek effortlessly blocks the attack without moving an inch. Oozing pure confidence, Pungbek tells the monster that if it climbs back into the tree right now, he might actually let it live. Despite the ogre throwing everything it has, Pungbek stands unfazed. Realizing pure physical force is useless, the blue monster unleashes a torrent of fire, but he blocks it with one arm, telling it to stop playing around. As Pungbek gears up to strike, the ogre makes a genius play. It vanishes, reappearing right next to Nara, snatching her up and leaping far away from the danger zone. The beast escapes with the girl through a dark doorway, slamming it shut. Pungbek bursts through seconds later, swearing he will rip the monster limb from limb this time. He takes a step, spots a tiny crab, and realizes he just walked into a trap. Stick around to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are diving into a wild trap as a magical barrier dumps Pungbek on a deserted beach. He sees a door in a sand heart labeled Basusan. He is furious this nature deity trick is the exact same trap that caught him 70 years ago. Meanwhile, somewhere safe, the blue ogre asks the girl if she is hungry. He realizes she looks identical to a woman in an old photograph, even wearing the exact same clothes. When asked why she was there, the girl replies she just wanted to grab a pencil from the tree. But the ogre warns it was no pencil, it was an arrow that broke his prison seal. Suddenly, their talk is cut short by a ringing phone. It is her friend, Junwoo, calling her. Using his distraction to run, she answers the call to scream for help. But the monster is way too fast, snatching the cell phone and crushing it to pieces instantly. He claims she is safe now that the guardian deity is free, but she realizes he plans to keep her prisoner. Just then, the blonde woman from the basement appears, fully conscious, and desperately warns her not to trust this blue monster. She reveals that he is the one who locked everyone downstairs. He is no guardian, he is a beast who literally feeds on the people inside this house. Denying everything, the ogre blames Pumbek instead. To shut her up, he strikes the blonde woman down, leaving our main character frozen in pure horror as she collapses. Suddenly, the other prisoners charge the ogre, screaming for the young student to escape through the window. She runs for her life while the monster easily tosses the two brave men against the wall like ragdolls. Desperate, the beast begs her to stay, claiming those people are brainwashed and that Pumbek will capture her the second she steps outside. Confused and terrified, she remembers Pumbek asking if she was the one who freed the creature, and the matriarch's warning that a hunter's arrow always pursues evil. Connecting the dots, she realizes the mysterious man in the overcoat was telling the truth and sprints toward the exit. Furious that he cannot convince her, the ogre slams her hard against the wall, knocking her out. As she loses consciousness, a neural link breaks the cap. Wearing Man was just a clone controlled by Pumbek. That heavy blow completely severs the link. High on a distant building, the real Pumbek feels the connection snap and immediately rushes to the scene. Back inside, the ogre decides to grab a snack before the big fight, feeling bad for hurting the girl to protect her. Now, pay attention here because right at that moment, a car pulls up outside. Inside are Nam and his family of skilled hunters. The matriarch immediately senses Lee Nara's spiritual energy, though her son jokes she is probably just using a tracking app. Opening the trunk, they grab weapons wrapped in talismans, fully prepared to hunt spirits. While the mother focuses on protecting her sacred relic, Nam's only priority is saving Lee Nara. Nam moves first, vaulting over the wall with incredible agility. The matriarch points out that the garden tree looks strange. They knock loudly on the door, but nobody answers. Opening it reveals a dark, bizarre space. Nam's older brother stops them, warning that a rabbit hole trap is active. One touch of spiritual power could teleport them anywhere. He claims he can disarm the ancient seal in a few minutes, but the impatient matriarch simply rips the door off its hinges because they do not have time. Entering the house, they search for Nara. Soon, Nam makes a horrifying discovery. The blonde woman and the other captives are still alive, but literally fused into the walls as if they were part of the building. Shocked by the horrifying sight of people trapped in the plaster, the mother orders her eldest son to break the spell immediately. He explains that this ancient spell will take time to break, but immediately gets to work. Meanwhile, Gyun-woo cannot wait. Ignoring warnings to stick together, he runs off alone to find Lee Nara. Hearing noises behind a door, he thinks Nara might be inside. Peeking through a crack, he spots the blue ogre with its back turned, using the rabbit hole talisman to steal food from a local market. Moments later, his siblings catch up and spot the creature, realizing it is a Dakibi, a powerful nature spirit. The Dakibi senses them, but too late. Gyun-woo charges ahead with his enchanted baseball bat, smashing the monster on the head while screaming to know where Nara is. Barely feeling the strike, the monster calmly asks who he is. Gyun-woo swings again, demanding his friend back, which only annoys the creature into cursing at him. Determined to find Nara, Gyun-woo strikes the enemy's stomach and charges his bat with electricity. Yet, even with that shocking power, the monster does not flinch. Instead, the beast unleashes a flurry of rapid punches. A heavy fist smashes into Gyun-woo's arm, sending him crashing into the wall. Hurt, he realizes the beast is too powerful. This spirit was just trying to eat and is highly irritated. As the beast prepares to strike him again, the mother steps in. Let's pause for a second, because she delivers a slap so powerful it sends the massive creature flying across the room, practically defeated. Standing over him, the matriarch demands to know where the sacred relic is. The dazed Dakebi can only ask what hit him. The mother tells the boys to search for Nara while she and her eldest son handle the ogre. But she quickly changes her mind, telling her son to step back too. She wants to stretch her muscles since it has been a while. The spirit senses her strength is not spiritual and wonders how she knows Pumbek. He assumes she must be one of Pumbek's servants to wield such insane physical power. Offended, the matriarch replies their relationship is a mutual partnership. Furious at the mere mention of Pung's name, the Dakabi calls her a servant once more and lunges forward to attack. He throws a massive punch, but she effortlessly blocks it with her palm. The monster swings his other arm, and as they clash closer, the terrifying truth finally dawns on him. She has zero spiritual energy, this is all pure brute force. Refusing to back down, they lock in a clash of strength. The Dakabi respects her power, but she taunts him, claiming she is not even using half. The monster retorts that he has not even used a quarter of his power, and they trade petty insults while testing each other. Gradually, the woman dominates the struggle, forcing the spirit down until he literally sinks into the floor. Terrified, he asks what she is. Her response, a swift punch to the face to end the match. Meanwhile, the boys head upstairs searching for Nara. They notice the dirty hallway is thick with dust and feels like it is on the verge of collapsing completely. Yoon-woo calls out her name until he hears a muffled response from a room. Kicking the door open, they find her gagged on the floor. But bizarrely, she is fast asleep and snoring loudly. They cannot comprehend how anyone could sleep through this chaos. After shaking her gently, Yoon-woo's voice finally wakes her up. He asks if she is all right and quickly unties her hands. He asks why she did not answer her phone, but before she can explain, Nara hugs him tightly, crying that she went through something terrifying and just needs a minute to feel safe. In that quiet moment, Yoon-woo remembers how dangerous this spiritual world truly is. Downstairs, the stubborn Dakebi still refuses to yield. They exchange heavy blows until the blue monster grabs her, dragging her straight through concrete walls and smashing everything in sight. Tired of being slammed around like this, the woman decides to reveal her true, terrifying form, a giant tiger. With a double swipe of her massive claws, she shreds the shocked monster. You and I definitely did not expect that crazy twist. All right, you and I are about to dive into a fight that literally brings the house down. As the ceiling collapses, Yoon-woo grabs Nara in a tight embrace, and they miraculously crash land right onto a bed, cushioning their fall. Within moments, the family gets back together in the wreckage. They look around, finding themselves in a weird chamber packed with sealed, empty jars. The matriarch wastes no time, demanding that Dakebi explain what this creepy room is. He explains that this is a secret prison built by Pungbek. The villain would trap spirits known as Yeomwi in here, forcing them to feed on each other. Once they finished, Pungbek would devour the strongest survivor. The mother is in total denial. She remembers him telling her to purify the world so she could finally become human. He wouldn't do this, right? But the blue ogre insists it's the truth. Pungbek is dying, decaying into an empty husk that feeds on Yeomwi spirits just to stay alive. Speak of the devil, Pungbek appears right in front of them. The Dakebi quickly warns that by devouring countless spirits, Pungbek has transformed into a high-level monster. For years, he saved humans, only to be rewarded with death. Terrified of fading into nothingness, he begged the gods for a cure. But when the heavens stayed silent, he took matters into his own hands. Desperate to live, Pungbek tried everything. One day, he swallowed a spirit, and the healing effect absolutely blew him away. He realized he could heal himself without begging the gods or begging for mercy. It felt like total liberation. But what started as a single sip quickly spiraled into a dark, uncontrollable addiction. He became fully hooked, stuffing his body with spirits. The withdrawal was pure agony, driving him to crave more and more. The hunger became a blinding pain, making him lose his mind. And in that delirious state, he stumbled upon an ancient tree growing in a quiet backyard. That tree was loaded with spirits a Dakebi had gathered for 300 years to protect his family. Pungbek sealed the guardian spirit and harvested those aged souls like ripe fruit, devouring them all. Now pay attention, because back in the present, the matriarch finally steps up to confront the traitor face to face. This is where it gets real. She asks with bitter sarcasm if he enjoyed eating the dark spirits she captured and he stole. Pungbek just scoffs arrogantly, saying he had no reason to reject such a generous gift. He sneers, mocking how they crawled like dogs just to become human, claiming he only treated them like the beasts they are. The matriarch is absolutely furious, and even little Nara is seething. Pungbek then lays out his twisted logic. Once something is useless, you throw it away. He already harvested more than enough spirits to stock up his reserves. With the tree empty, they were useless to him, meaning it was time to clean house. Suddenly, the guardian spirit's tree ignites with eerie blue flames, and the entire building catches fire, trapping the kids inside. Pungbek sneers that they will burn to ashes and tries to vanish. But the eldest son reacts in a flash, locking the villain down with glowing crimson chains. Instantly, the mother charges in, but his spirit-infused body takes zero damage. Pungbek's face mutates into a half-human, half-monster hybrid as he roars that he will slaughter these beasts himself. Summoning his dark serpent magic, slimy, black claws erupt and pin the mother and her eldest son hard against the wall. Just as hope fades, the burning guardian spirit uses its remaining energy to seize Pungbek, dragging him into the flames. Simultaneously, Nam goes into full rage mode, unleashing a brutal barrage of punches. Breaking free, Pungbek throttles Nam by the throat, spitting that the ogre has no idea what it feels like to be cast aside. But Yoon-woo cuts in, mocking that maybe Pungbek was the one thrown away like garbage. The villain freezes in shock, giving Nam the split second he needs to break the hold. And look at this, a glowing blue arrow pierces his chest. Our girl Nara actually rigged up a bow out of a pencil, a hair tie, and her ring. Seizing the opening, Yuan-Wu unleashes a devastating, lightning-infused thunder strike right to Peng Bak's chest. The massive impact forces every single stolen spirit out of his body, dissolving them into nothingness. Deprived of his stolen power, Peng Bak collapses, his face literally melting away. Screaming in shock, he blames Nara for ruining everything by freeing the Dakebi and landing that shot. He vows to hunt her down, but the matriarch coldly shuts him down. There won't be a next time. In a final, desperate move, Peng Bak triggers a dark blast that collapses the entire mansion, slipping away in the smoke. Now, the family has to escape this crumbling death trap. Hondo spots a talisman-marked refrigerator that could be their way out, but a falling concrete slab suddenly smashes the exit to pieces, leaving them completely trapped as despair sinks in. Their only other path is blocked by a wall of fire. It looks like game over. But then, the flaming tree roots shift, uncovering a hidden passageway. Carved onto the door is another rabbit burrow talisman, their ticket to survival. As the roots part, they guide them forward. This is the final, selfless act of the home's guardian Dakebi. Nara realizes he is burning his remaining life force to save them and begs him to come along. But the spirit explains his soul is bound to the dying tree. Since the tree is dead, he will soon fade away. He apologizes for failing to save his home and his family. But as a true guardian deity, he will perform one last duty, keeping Nara safe. Whispering his final words, the spirit dissolves. Nara watches in heartbreak, unable to believe his tragic end. Seeing her freeze, Nam grabs her arm, dragging her through the escape portal. Looking back, she watches the Dakebi crumble to stardust. Overwhelmed with grief, she snatches a photo hanging from the wall. She remembers how much his past family loved him. He had been isolated here for 70 years, and Nara deeply regrets being so terrified of him when they first met. She wonders if things would have ended differently if she had been braver. Stepping through the portal, they land on Mount Buso, embracing in sheer relief. But there is a catch. Nara and Yun-Woo, who were at the back, are nowhere to be found. The family realizes the portal had a strict passenger limit, sending the duo somewhere else. Meanwhile, the pair lands in a shocking new spot. The burned, ruined estate is now pristine, complete with a beautiful, manicured garden. Jung-Woo knows something is seriously off. Turning back toward the gateway, they spot a little boy holding an old camera. Nara suddenly recalls what the Dakebi said about his family's final descendant. Connecting the dots, she realizes the spirit did not open an exit, it opened a gateway into its own past. They are in 1954. The boy asks who they are, and Nara desperately warns him about Peng Bak's black snake, shouting that his family is in grave danger. But the kid immediately defends the doctor. He insists Peng Bak is a kind soul treating his sick mother, telling Nara to stop talking trash. Junmu whispers that strangers like them won't be believed anyway. Nara gets it. She did not believe the Dakebi at first either. Now, feeling his total helplessness, she knows that running away or freezing up will change absolutely nothing. Even if it fails, she won't run away. Activating her ring, Nara pulls dark energy from his chest, and trust me, you and I are about to see this change history. Alright, you and I are jumping right into a wild scene as the little photographer stands dazed, while Peng Bak watches in absolute shock as Nara crushes that evil spirit with her bare hands. She tells the kid that some of the most important things are invisible and urges him to trust her. Passing him the charred photo from the wall, she begs him to drop his doubts and look for the true warmth in others. Right then, the sinister Dr. Peng Bak begins marching straight toward them. Behind them, the glowing portal to the future starts shutting all on its own. Nam desperately screams for Nara to run before she gets stranded in the past forever. Right before jumping through, she calls out to the goblin bound inside the ancient tree, swearing she will return to break his chains. Hearing her vow leaves the spirit completely stunned. A second later, Peng Bak storms in and rips the door open, finding absolutely nothing. Though the little goblin did not fully understand her parting words back then, they gave him hope. Even bound tight inside that wooden cage, he endured the long years by simply watching the little boy's happy family through the window. The young boy, Gun-ho, grew up to be a gifted photographer, capturing the outside world for his sick mother who was trapped indoors. He brought her snapshots of blooming garden flowers and bright, smiling faces, making her feel happy every single day. Gun-ho became a brilliant young man, but their happiness was tragically cut short. After his mother passed away, his father followed soon after. Left entirely defenseless and alone in the cold world, he became prime prey for the wicked Peng Bak. Desperate to protect the kid no matter what, the goblin made a massive sacrifice. He chose to transfer his entire spiritual power into Gun-ho, the last bloodline descendant, hoping the boy could run far away and chase his dreams, even if it left the spirit as an empty shell. Nothing else mattered to the spirit as long as the boy survived. But the cruel Pongbake smashed Gunho's camera to pieces, and shortly after that, the young man vanished entirely without a single trace. An icy silence swallowed the home, turning it into a tomb of happy memories as the structure slowly rotted away. And the goblin remained completely isolated, drowning in guilt for failing to save his family. Sick of staring into the empty darkness, he eventually began to scream, begging the universe to either free him or destroy him forever. But pay attention, because right when he had given up all hope, a brilliant light suddenly cut through the darkness. It was the powerful magic arrow that Nara had shot using her thumb ring. An arrow carrying an ancient promise had traveled across time to rescue him. Coming back to the present, Nara and Gunwoo realize the entire house is engulfed in roaring flames. Luckily, the blazing fire opened up an escape route for them. The decaying old house they escaped from was now reduced to a smoking heap of dark ash, and the giant sacred tree was also burned to a crisp. Sifting through the wreckage, Nam spots a tiny flickering ember of light, all that remains of the goblin's spirit. He survived, but he is incredibly weak and small now. Relieved, Nara gently asks if he can hear her voice. Her partner warns her that the fading spirit likely won't remember them and will soon vanish for good. Panicking, she asks if there is any way to keep him alive, but Gunwoo notes that it is hopeless unless the burnt tree miraculously revives. Just then, the local police roll up to the scene, scolding the teenagers and telling them it is far too dangerous to wander around a fresh fire. An officer asks if they got caught in the flames by mistake. He notes a witness spotted a suspicious person carrying a gas canister earlier, but our duo plays dumb and denies seeing anyone. Strangely, the neighbors actually seem relieved by the disaster, complaining that the creepy old ruin was dragging down property values. They explain the stubborn owner refused to sell for years, letting it rot into this tragic state. Curious, Nara asks if this owner is still alive, but the locals shrug it off. They mention he was a legendary documentary photographer named Park Gun-ho, who passed away back in 2001. His family donated over 50,000 of his photos to the local art museum. Armed with this lead, Nara and Gunwoo head straight to a memorial exhibition celebrating the life of Park Gun-ho. Nara is stunned to realize that the little boy from the past had actually survived all the way until recently. In the gallery, a spectral butterfly guides them as she carries the tiny goblin's spirit. The weak spirit gazes at the frames, recognizing the flowers his mother once loved. He realizes that inside these photos, they will never wither. And you know what? The little boy actually held onto every word Nara told him back then. His mother always dreamed he would explore the massive world beyond their fence, and he finally made it happen. He captured hardworking farmers smiling under the sun, packing each frame with the warm, living stories of ordinary people. As they browse the hall, the duo stops in front of an incredibly touching portrait of a mother and son. The small goblin is overjoyed to see that Gunho truly explored the vast outer world. Finding a photo of his happy family standing by the old tree fills Nara with pride, seeing the boy become a legendary artist. Gunwoo, on the other hand, is totally confused as to why she keeps calling him a kid, considering the man died at a very old age. Suddenly, a young woman approaches them, admiring the photo of the tree and sharing that it was her grandfather's absolute favorite piece. Instantly, the duo realizes she is actually Gunho's granddaughter. The woman politely bids them farewell and walks away. This means Gunho was not the last of his line, contrary to what the spirit feared. Knowing his beloved family's bloodline continues to survive, the goblin finally finds deep peace. With a peaceful smile, his tiny body dissolves into glowing stardust, drifting gently into the printed photograph. At long last, he returns to the arms of the family he loved so dearly. Nara softly asks if the spirit survived in some form, but Gunwoo cannot say for sure. He simply notes that, ultimately, the goblin looked happy, resting forever inside a warm, eternal memory. Moments later, Nara gets a phone call from her parents. They reassure her that they are safe and ask where she and her brother went, prompting her to look back on this crazy day. Taking an unfamiliar route had led them straight to the sacred goblin tree, allowing them to escape a deadly trap. Nara wonders if this was pure luck or a miracle, but realizes true miracles do not descend from above, they are forged by human determination. Maybe the spirits of her parents really were guiding her steps. In fact, right there in the museum gallery, a portrait of Nara is prominently displayed under the title Benefactor. Later, Nara's family boards a bullet train back home. During the ride, she questions her mother about why she ever put her trust in the wicked Pongbake. Her mother confesses that despite her doubts, she was blinded by the dream of becoming human quickly, taking full responsibility for the disaster. Meanwhile, Hando remains incredibly bitter. as he wanted to turn human more than anyone and was left utterly crushed. Her brother agrees it is frustrating, but points out they cannot change the past, suggesting they simply keep protecting humans the same way they always do. But their mother scoffs at charity work, revealing she is already plotting to restore her online accounts and set up those underground chat rooms once again. And just like that, a new alliance forms with a single focus: hunt down the sacred relics of Dangun and unlock the key to becoming human. Elsewhere, a dark gathering of villains stands around a seal, trapping ancient souls. Standing in their ranks is the vile Pong Bake. He asks a newly liberated spirit if it likes its fresh vessel, but the entity complains that this new host body feels like absolute trash. Another villain tells the entity to just go find a better host. Tossing the body aside, the spirit vows to search for a more entertaining shell, revealing herself as the legendary nine-tailed fox. Knowing Pong Bake had a motive for freeing her, she asks what he expects in return. Our main villain smiles, claiming it as a simple request. He just wants the fox to do what she does best: unleash countless wicked spirits to feast on humanity and drag the mortal world into total chaos. But he issues one strict warning. Do not lay a finger on the girl, Linura. Her powerful soul belongs to him alone. In a sudden flashback, we see white flames dancing inside a glowing crystal sphere. A bewildered man cannot decipher the whispers emanating from it, but he knows it is a relic of Dangun. And trust me, you and I are going to see exactly how much trouble this artifact brings. You and I are about to dive into a crazy story. When holding a powerful relic makes you a target, the worst thing you can do is let your kid swallow it. His frantic father screamed at him to spit it out, but it was too late. Hidden deep in the mountains of Gangwon province, young Nam Gun-woo grew up wild, learning to hunt beasts with the strange spectral energy now flowing through his veins. One afternoon, he leaped straight from a high branch into his dad's arms, accidentally releasing his wild spiritual power and giving him a little shock. When his dad jokingly asked if he missed him, the kid just shrugged. Asked how he spent his days alone, young Gun-woo simply replied that he spent his time swimming. He also loved climbing trees and sprinting across the peaks. A bit worried, his father asked if he had been eating raw meat again, but the boy could only offer a guilty, silent stare. Gun-woo eagerly asked if he had finally caught the elusive spirit, but his father shook his head. That meant his dad would have to go back out on another hunt. He felt terrible leaving his son alone in the wild with no friends, but Gun-woo just smiled, telling him it was fine as long as he brought home a pizza next time. He then asked if his dad was tired and if he still missed Mom. His dad lied, claiming he was over her, but the boy knew better because he always heard him whispering her name at night. When asked why he fell for her, his father explained it was entirely out of his control. She was so stunningly beautiful that he turned into a total fool the very second they met. That intense spark made him realize she was absolutely irreplaceable. She was the kind of woman who made him truly believe in a word like destiny. His father explained that destiny is something you can never change, even if the stars fall from the sky. He promised that once Gun-woo met his own special someone, he would finally understand that deep feeling. The boy did not care much about romance, but seeing his dad's smile always made him happy. The next morning, his father packed his gear to hunt another dangerous spirit. Gun-woo asked why he kept hunting these monsters when it was so risky, wondering if it would really make them human. His father shook his head. He did not do it for a reward, but because it was the right thing. To him, humanity was simple. You just had to show love, help others, and live with kindness. Gun-woo, sensing his own beastly nature, asked if looks did not matter, and his father assured him they did not. If you act like a human, your outer shell means nothing. Admiring his father's wisdom, Gun-woo brought up the pizza again, but his dad just chuckled and warned him his tail was showing. Left to his own devices, the boy tried his best to live right. He fed nuts to squirrels and tossed carrots to wild rabbits, convinced he was practicing human kindness and love. He was ready to repeat his routine, but days quickly bled into nights and his dad never returned. He had promised to be back in 3 days tops. Now, pay attention here because this is where everything takes a dark turn. 5 nights passed, and instead of his dad, a mysterious old woman appeared, commenting on how well Gun-woo was imitating humans. Catching her scent, the boy growled defensively, sensing extreme danger. But the old woman, then, she delivered a crushing blow. With a heavy heart, she handed over a small urn, revealing that his beloved father had passed away and returned only as ashes. She told him that whether he slept for 10 or 100 nights, his dad was never coming home. Just like that, Gun-woo was left completely alone. Staring at the urn, he wondered if this cruel fate was the destiny his father always talked about. Seeing his grief, the old woman offered to take him in and protect him. When he asked why she was doing this, she explained his father never needed a reason to help. She then shared that his name, Nam Gun-woo, was chosen so he would live to protect others. Back in the present, Nara notices he is spacing out and asks what is on his mind. He shrugs it off, saying he was just remembering the old days. Suddenly, a speeding bus nearly hits Nara, but Gunwoo rescues her in a flash, showing his protective instincts. She teases him, noting how sweet he is lately compared to his usual grumpy self. He knows he owes her everything, since she is the granddaughter of the savior who took him in. Meanwhile, in the shadows, three sneaky, rat-like monsters are whispering about a scheme. One monster wonders if his human disguise looks convincing, and the others agree it is perfect for fooling targets. Still, they worry, because crossing someone like Pungbake could easily get them killed. Despite the danger, their mission is to sneak into school and steal one of Nara's fingernails undetected. Meanwhile, up on the school rooftop, two students are getting busy right before class. I know what you were thinking. Who could be watching them during class? Well, let us see, because the truth is beyond creepy. A crowd of ghosts is actually watching their every move. A spirit named Mia is especially annoyed, muttering about how ridiculous it is to do that in broad daylight. Another specter starts mocking her, sparking a loud argument. He claims Mia only hates it because she never got to experience romance when she was alive, making her furious. Deep down, she is just incredibly jealous of what she missed. Having died without ever even holding a guy's hand, she laments her tragic fate. But her mood flips the second she spots Nam Gun-woo walking up the steps. To her, he is the single bright light in a miserable afterlife. Simply looking at him heals her soul, but her joy quickly shatters when Nara shows up, triggering a wave of pure envy. Assuming they are a couple, Mia feels like her tiny bit of happiness was brutally stolen away. Feeling completely hopeless, things get worse when Nara stops right in front of her to chat. Nara kindly asks if she is feeling okay, offering a helping hand. This sweet gesture only deepens Mia's bitterness, making her resent how beautiful and pure Nara is. Recalling that Nara once saved her from a dangerous fox beast, her jealousy morphs into guilt. She tells herself she is a terrible soul who simply does not deserve happiness. Her mortal life was a non-stop nightmare. After a fatal crash claimed both parents, she was forced to lead the household, working tirelessly to raise her 5 younger siblings. She abandoned school to watch over them, pulling grueling night shifts at a local factory. Every spare second was spent working odd restaurant jobs, sacrificing her entire youth for family duty. One night, her kind young manager sent her home early, offering to cover her remaining tasks. He even gave her a generous pay advance, leaving her feeling deeply touched and grateful. He handed her an extra bonus to buy gifts for her siblings. Overwhelmed with gratitude, she noticed a warm look in his eyes, feeling as though a sweet romance was finally about to bloom. Her past was not entirely dark, containing fleeting moments of joy she cherished. But right when hope seemed to appear, her body gave out, and Mia tragically died from extreme overwork. Even in death, her worry for her family kept her tethered to the mortal realm. As a lingering spirit, she watched over them, constantly nagging her youngest brother to focus on his studies. Following him around is how she ended up bound to this very school. Hearing this, Nara realized it was pure sisterly devotion keeping the lonely ghost trapped in this world. Mia softly admitted that her sole comfort was watching Nam Gunwoo, though it broke her heart knowing a ghost and a human could never be together. She turned to leave, but Nara tried to stop her, begging her to stay for her brother's graduation. Trust me, you and I are definitely going to want to see what happens next. Let's dive into a wild twist. A creepy rat beast suddenly shoves Nara down the stairs, causing Mia's floating spirit to fall right into the poor girl's body. Right then, the handsome Nam Gunwoo steps in, extending a hand to help her up. For Mia's spirit, seeing the guy she secretly loved offering help is an absolute shock. Feeling his warm skin for the very first time, her mind explodes with wild romantic fantasies. Seizing the moment, Mia inside Nara's body starts shamelessly flirting with Gyun-woo, leaving the entire classroom in absolute disbelief. She drinks in every single detail, from his sharp jawline to the veins on his arms, falling head over heels. But Gyun-woo is completely weirded out by her intense, seductive gaze. Boldly wasting no time, she invites him straight to the school rooftop, a famous hotspot for secret campus couples. Now pay attention, because this gets wild. His stunned silence only makes Mia bolder. Thinking he's just shy, she asks if he hates dating before suddenly hugging him from behind. The classroom erupts in pure shock. Embarrassed and absolutely furious, Gyun-woo shoves her away, totally clueless about what is going on, and storms out of the room. Mia stands there completely baffled. In all the romance webtoons she read, the male lead loved bold moves like that. But clearly, harsh reality hits entirely different. Nara's worried friends rush over, demanding to know why she is acting so weird. But Mia knows her clock is ticking. Once the real Lee Nara wakes up, the game is over. She has to win Yun Woo over today, no matter what. Meanwhile, up on the roof, he is panicking so hard that his secret beast tail almost pops out. He wonders why Nara is acting so crazy, and even though he knows something is off, he secretly loves the closeness. But stick with me, because far away, the three rat men who attacked Nara are already plotting. All right, you and I are diving into a wild story where these thugs complain they can't even touch the girl since she's glued to Ganwoo. Their boss said do not touch N, but the others are fair game. So to get near her, they decide they'll have to take out Nam Gunwoo first. Meanwhile, back at home, Mia is still possessing N's body, collapsed on the bed, completely exhausted. Even though she didn't get any real action with him, she still had an amazing day. Yet, she felt like she missed a huge opportunity. Before leaving Nara's body, she decides to change the girl's clothes. But opening the closet, she spots a weird rabbit hole amulet and, to her absolute shock, discovers a secret, hidden room right inside. Curious, she steps through and ends up on the other side, finding Nam and Woo fast asleep in his bed. She has no idea how their rooms connect, making her wonder about his bond with Nara. Once she realizes they're roommates, Mia knows this is her ultimate golden ticket. Without hesitating for a single second, she sneaks into his room and climbs right onto his bed. Now I know what you're thinking. Is she really going for it? Oh, absolutely. She climbs on top of him, planning to steal a quick kiss and run. But guess what? Jun-woo isn't actually asleep. He felt her presence from the start and only faked being asleep to see what she'd do. The second her face gets close, his eyes flash a menacing crimson as, "All right, you and I are jumping right into the heat of this battle." He grabs her face, growling. "Who are you?" He knew this imposter was not Nara, and his sheer rage was enough to terrify the spirit. Now watch this, because things get intense. The spirit warns that hurting her means hurting Nara's physical body, but he does not care. With a massive burst of energy, he forcefully rips the ghost right out of her. The ghost flees in absolute terror as Gunmoo screams for her to stop. And trust me, you and I know this is only the beginning of his wrath. All right, you and I are diving into a wild supernatural tale today. His anger was clear, but maybe it's just because that wasn't the real Nara. If it were actually her, would he have reacted differently? Meanwhile, Gunmoo tries to wake Lee Nara, but she won't budge. He can tell that her current expression is finally her own, not the ghost that had possessed her body. Meanwhile, lost in some strange astral dreamland, Nara feels incredibly cozy, like she's brushing against warm, fluffy fur. Right there, she hears a faint voice calling out the name Munchie. Instantly, her soul snaps back to reality, and she wakes up in her own bed, remembering absolutely nothing about yesterday. But the shock hits fast when she learns the ghost, Mia, used her body to flirt with Jun-woo. Nara is completely mortified, while Mia pleads for forgiveness, promising she will never do it again. Still embarrassed, Nara asks if anything actually happened between them. Gunwoo assures her everything is clean, but Nara insists she cannot just let this ghost off the hook for what she did. That's when Yong-woo steps in, declaring he can't let a possessing spirit wander around freely. He offers to help her move on to the afterlife, but Mia refuses. She needs to watch her little brother grow up. Lee Nara actually defends her, explaining that Mia only haunted the school out of worry for her brother, having lived a brutal life struggling to raise her siblings completely on her own. Now pay attention, because Nam Yun-woo is not buying this sob story. To him, her actions were totally wrong. Regardless of her reasons, he makes it clear the issue isn't just a kiss, it was done completely against his will. Suddenly, their talk is cut short by a massive argument outside. An old man, who happens to be the school principal, is furiously scolding a student named Kim Sayaku for catching him smoking. Right then, Mia gasps, recognizing the student as her little brother. Furious at his rebellious attitude and total lack of respect for his sister's sacrifices, Nara marches right up and slaps the cigarette out of Kim Sayaku's hand. She calls him an absolute idiot, shouting about how much his late sister still worries over him. Hearing about his deceased sibling, the boy suddenly looks stunned and gets visibly emotional. But wait. The ghost pointing her finger at the old principal corrects her, explaining that he is actually her little brother. Nara is absolutely dying of embarrassment for getting everything totally wrong. Yep, Mia was actually worried about the bald principal, complaining about his terrible fashion choices. Amazingly, the old man admits he always felt his sister's presence, and her memory gave him the strength to raise their family and build a good life. With that, everyone feels a wave of relief seeing her brother grew up to be a good man, and the whole issue is finally put to rest. Later on, Gun-woo finds Nara fast asleep. I know what you're thinking, but instead of carrying her to bed, he just lies down beside her. He hesitates, almost touching her hand. before pulling away. As she sleeps, our heroine keeps whispering the name Munchie. And within her dreams, a bizarre story begins to unfold about the infamous rat utopia experiment, designed to build a perfect, stress-free paradise for rodents. But as their numbers exploded, their behavior warped. The strongest rats hoarded all resources, leaving the weak isolated. Sick of the constant struggle, violence took over, and their entire society completely collapsed. Even when their numbers dropped and resources became plentiful again, the survivors remained completely selfish, showing absolutely zero interest in interacting with one another. Scientists stopped the trial before total extinction, but the dark lesson was clear. And this brutal concept of competition connects directly to what goes down next inside Nara's classroom. She gets her exam back and freezes. A measly 40 points, while all her friends scored incredibly high. Heartbroken, Nara feels utterly left behind, desperately wondering if she even has a shot at getting into college with grades like these. Suddenly, she hears her friends whispering insults, calling her lazy. When she confronts them, they act innocent. But then they spin around with glowing red eyes, brutally mocking her, saying she'll never reach their level. A creepy rat man suddenly appears to start a new trial. The school blackouts, number 1 marks her back, and trust me, we are definitely not ready for what comes next. Alright, let's jump in. A blackboard notice announces a sick game of hide-and-seek with a serial killer. Nam Gun-woo stands in the dark with number 2 on his back, while his friends, wearing numbers 3 and 4, cluelessly assume they are just at a theme park. Alright, you and I are diving straight into a massive, eerie cityscape. The girls spot someone in the distance and decide to ask for directions. But they immediately regret it because this guy is a total psycho. Bug-eyed, jagged teeth, wielding a massive axe, he tells them to hide before lunging, sending them fleeing in sheer terror. Meanwhile, Jun-woo is cornered by 3 disgusting rat monsters looking to make him their next meal. He does not hesitate. With one devastating punch, he drops the first beast. He easily slips the second attacker and launches it flying back, taking out the 3rd rat in the process. Within seconds, all 3 are flat on the dirt, and Gun-woo glares down at them like an absolute boss. But the beaten rats desperately call out for someone they call the Tattered One. Realizing Gun-woo is way too strong, they screech that he must be eaten. Right on cue, a massive stitched-together behemoth emerges from the shadows. This cloth, like giant, thanks them for the snack. Then, to Gun-woo's utter disbelief, the monster suddenly grabs and devours one of the very rat men standing right beside it. Wasting no time, Gun-woo throws a powerful spectral punch straight at the monster's stomach. But its belly weirdly warps into a spiral, completely swallowing up his fist. A brutal counterblow to the gut sends Gun-woo crashing hard into a brick wall. Seizing the moment, the giant grabs his hand, lifts him high, and slams him down. Bringing its massive jaws close, it chillingly asks if he has ever died before as it prepares to swallow him whole. But Jun-woo just smirks, asking if it really wants to eat him that badly. The moment the beast opens its massive maw, he unleashes a devastating electric punch straight down its throat. The explosive strike tears the monster's body apart, and suddenly, thousands of writhing rats come pouring out of the carcass. Only then does Gun-woo realize what this place really is. Now pay close attention, because here is where we meet our main protagonist, Lee Nara. She is hiding in a dark classroom while 4 armed rat monsters actively hunt for her. As she hides, she spots another girl who gestures for her to be quiet. But it is useless. One of the monsters leaps onto a desk, sniffs around, and spots them, leaving them completely paralyzed with fear. The beast lunges forward, but Nara barely manages to dodge the strike. Before the other armed rat men can close in, the mysterious girl grabs her hand and pulls her away. While fleeing, Lee Nara desperately asks who those freaks are. Her new companion explains that they are legendary rat monsters who eat fingernails, and they are hunting them. They sprint up the stairs, only to find the exit completely blocked by a massive locker. To make matters worse, dozens of armed rat soldiers suddenly surround them from both sides. Trap-locked and terrified, they try to think of a plan. Gripping a small axe, Nara's companion tells her to stick close to the railing. Suddenly, she swings the axe, cutting a thick rope that was holding back a pile of heavy lockers. The metal furniture cascades down the stairs, crushing the rat army and forcing them to drop their weapons. Using the chaos to their advantage, the girl uses a key with a rabbit keychain to unlock a secret locker. She tells Nara to follow her so she can explain everything. Nara squeezes into the tight space, crawling through a hidden tunnel that leads straight to a safe house. The girl explains that the rats have no idea this hidden bunker exists, making them safe for now. She introduces herself as Kim Hyuna, revealing she was dragged into this nightmare a month ago. She woke up trapped in this hellhole, which she calls the rat nest, since everyone here is treated like a lab rat. Huna reveals that around 30 people were originally captured, but almost all of them have already been slaughtered and eaten. She explains that new victims like Nara are constantly brought to this living hell, created by a twisted entity known as Game, the Rat King. Back with Nam Gun-woo, he is currently interrogating one of the surviving rat soldiers. The creature desperately explains that a brutal survival game is underway here, and only the winner gets to reach the throne. Jun-woo demands to know what is at the throne, and the rat replies that it holds absolute power, reserved only for number one. He also lets slip that the only way out of this hell is right above that very throne. Jun-woo instantly realizes that the only way home is through the Rat King himself. Without wasting a single moment, he orders his captive guide to lead him straight to their ruler. As they walk through the shadows, Gun-woo notices a strict military hierarchy under Game's command. Suddenly, the big boss himself steps out of the dark, muttering that rats can never be trusted because they will always betray you. And yeah, I know what you are thinking. Gun-woo is ready for a massive fight. As Game introduces himself, Gun-woo immediately cuts him off with a solid punch. But suddenly, swarms of rats burst out of the king's cheek, crawling up Gun-woo's hand and swarming his entire body. He freezes in horror as the king mocks him, saying he is just another weak lab rat. When Gun-woo asks why he is doing this, Game confesses that he only desires what belongs to others, which is why he became incredibly curious about what makes Lee Nara so special. Hearing her name while smothered in rats, Gun-woo desperately asks if Nara is actually here. The king casually confirms that the experiment with the girl has already begun. Game wonders what tragic end would suit Gun-woo best, wanting to witness his inner darkness. The rats completely envelope him, but a furious Gun-woo screams for them to get off, exploding with a dark, powerful aura that forces them back. Suddenly, Yoon-woo's mind is warped back to his childhood home. He stands face to face with his father, who looks genuinely happy to see his son return after all this time. Jun-woo tears up, saying how much he missed him, but his father's warm expression instantly turns cold, telling him that both in the past and now, he will always be completely alone. The illusionary father cruelly reminds him why they hid in the mountains, claiming Yoon-woo always brings misery to everyone close to him, just like the old woman who died right in front of his useless self. While Gun-woo is trapped in his mental torment, Lee Nara and Kim Hyuna are hiding inside a bathroom. With everything quiet outside, they wonder if they should move, but they are terrified of the cold-blooded killers. Suddenly, a stall door creaks open and they freeze, holding their breath in pure panic. Someone enters the stall right next to theirs. Seeing feet, they desperately consider whispering for help, hoping it is another human. But peering through the crack in the door, a hideous rat soldier asks if anyone is hiding inside. The girl's blood-curdling screams echo throughout the bathroom the instant they are spotted. Right after, a creepy female rat noticed them too, brandishing a sharp box cutter. In seconds, half a dozen armed rat women completely surround the stall, demanding to know who is hiding in there. Meanwhile, in another room, Nara is watching the surveillance cameras and sees her friends Sujin and Aomi in grave danger. Standing right next to her, Huna takes the chance to drop a cold, cynical comment. She asks if Nara really considers them friends, reminding her that at the end of this twisted game, only one person gets to sit on the throne and escape this place alive. She claims that people only team up at first to survive, and that true friendship is a lie. But Nara knows her friends are different. She realizes the rat monsters are just testing their bonds of loyalty. Huna insists it is safer to stay in the bunker and avoid betrayal, but Nara ignores her. Weaponizing a ruler and pencil, she declares that if she must become a monster to survive, then she will fight. Huna calls her an idiot, repeating that only one can survive. But Nara firmly resolves to save every single one of them and return home. Meanwhile, Nam Gun-woo is trapped in brutal psychological torture. The Rat King Game toys with his mind, pulling up painful memories of his grandmother. Game knows Gun-woo's ultimate weakness is his fear of being abandoned, the exact trauma of losing his father and grandmother. The king mockingly calls him a selfish coward who only protects others because he is terrified of being left behind. Gyun-woo screams in denial, desperately fighting back against the psychological attack. As he screams, pitch-black shadows and sharp thorns begin to manifest around him. Game feeds off this negative energy to peer deep into Gun-woo's soul, hoping to expose the weak human nature within. Deep down, the king finds a giant imprisoned black wolf, Gun-woo's dark secret. Suddenly, his father's spirit appears to stop him. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. All right, you and I are about to watch the ultimate beast break its chains. His dad explains those thorns were just his son's desperate attempt to act human, but the Rat King shatters them anyway. With the seals shattered, the massive wolf erupts, tearing off half the king's spiritual form in a brutal rush. The king finally realizes his fatal mistake. Jin-woo was never hiding his inner monster. He had locked it deep inside, but now the beast is loose. Jin Woo's vision shatters as he crashes down, completely transformed into a terrifying fusion of man and wild wolf. In this feral state, he batters the king without mercy, delivering blows that pulverize his physical form. Yet, right before collapsing, the Rat King laughs, mocking Gunwoo for finally looking like a true monster. Gunwoo delivers one final strike, blowing his enemy to pieces. Thousands of rats swarm from the wreckage as the true king's voice echoes, mocking the fact that he has unleashed a terrifying beast driven by pure killer instinct. Inviting him to a special showdown, the king summons Stitch Rag dolls to attack. He goads the wolf to embrace his true nature, a savage world where the strong ruthlessly devour the weak. Guanwu grins, accepting the challenge as he brutally tears the dolls apart, hunting them down one by one to avenge his beloved grandmother. Meanwhile, in the restroom, things look hopeless. The rat women grab Sujin and aim C by the hair, ready to feast. But right at the final second, a makeshift pencil arrow pierces one monster, dropping her cold. Stepping up with a smirk, N challenges the rest of the beasts. She bolts down the hallway, baiting the remaining three straight into a deadly trap. The mindless monsters chase her blindly and plunge off the building's edge. Sujin and AOMC watch in utter awe as N hugs them, deeply relieved that they survived the horror. Seeing N risk it all triggers a dark memory for one of the rescued girls. She remembers a time back on the school rooftop, watching Huna, the girl alongside Nara, standing on the edge, ready to jump. Instead of saving her, they had snapped photos, proving their bond was toxic. Back in the harsh present, Nara explains to Huna that their only escape route lies on the top floor. But Huna remains highly doubtful, convinced everyone will eventually stab each other in the back for the ultimate throne. Fearing more pain, she considers retreating to her safe hiding spot. Even so, Nara reaches out, offering to fight and escape together. Just then, Huna spots a mangled, horrific creature creeping up right behind Nara and screams out a warning. Watch closely, right here a horde suddenly swarms to tear the girls apart, but in a flash, a shadow slices the lead monster in half. The Wolfman has arrived. Unleashing blinding speed, claws, and devastating electrical strikes, he annihilates the beasts. The girls freeze in sheer terror, completely shocked by his raw power. N stares blankly, unable to recognize this monster. Panic surges as the beast starts stalking toward them. Raising his razor-sharp claws, he prepares to strike Nara, whom he strangely perceives as a glowing, warm beacon of light. Desperate, she screams the name Yun Wu, not even knowing why she called out. Hearing his name, the creature freezes mid-strike, suddenly pulling her into an embrace as a buried memory sparks. From the shadows, the Rat King watches with growing frustration. He expected the savage wolf to follow its bloodlust and shred the girl. And for a second, it looks like he will. As they hug, Gunwoo's body begins to shake. His eyes flare with pure madness as his claws sink deep into Nara's back, making her shriek. Watching this, Huna immediately regrets trusting her. This creature was a true monster. Bleeding, Nara screams for Nam Yun Woo to wake up and snap out of it. Through the raging haze, something finally registers in his eyes. The beast steps back, letting her friends pull her away. Staring at Nara's blood staining his claws, Gunwoo is hit by crushing guilt. His vision fades to black, leaving only her glowing blue figure. He cannot bear to be left alone in the dark. As the girls scramble up the stairwell, he trails behind. Huna screams in panic, but the others realize he isn't hunting them, he just looks desperately sad. Running upward, the group is suddenly cut off by a horde of rat men blocking the path. They brace for a clash, but before Nara can loose an arrow, Nam Yun Woo charges right past them. Exploding with fury, he tears the monsters apart in a bloody blur. Baffled by this sudden ally, Huna decides not to ask questions and urges the girls to sprint for the top. I know what you're thinking, is this wolf totally uncontrollable? Even the Rat King is highly amused, but the girls finally reach the roof, eyeing the only escape path, climbing to the throne of power. Up there, a classmate spots Huna. Introducing himself as number 18, he tells Nara this is his third time trying to reach the peak, offering to guide them through. Their chat is cut short when Gunwoo arrives, glaring so fiercely at the boy that he flees in sheer panic. Suddenly, the Rat King manifests before the survivors, declaring the final trial has begun. The rules are simple. The first person to sit on the throne wins it all. He mocks them, claiming effort never lies and the champion takes everything. As the starting bell rings, Nam Gunwoo leaps forward, climbing furiously toward the peak. Realizing the beast is drawing the focus of hundreds of rat men, the other contestants use this distraction to scramble up behind him. The bloody feast begins as monsters swarm the climbers. Completely alone, Gunwoo charges headfirst into the terrifying horde. Using lethal lightning and superhuman speed, he vaporizes dozens of beasts at once, clearing a path. Blown away by his strength, the remaining survivors and Huna's group seize the moment to scramble upward. Everyone fights desperately to survive and escape, but the stakes are lethal. Amidst the chaos, a struggling climber gets snagged by two rat men and is savagely torn apart. The poor guy is ripped to shreds, his life ending right there. Meanwhile, another pair of beasts target a nearby group of survivors, forcing two friends to brace for impact. One calls out to take the right while his buddy covers the left. But in a cowardly panic, one guy shoves his own best friend directly into the monster's jaws just to save himself. The betrayed boy screams in pure rage, swearing the traitor in the cap won't make it out alive. Running alone, the kid in the red cap panics, wondering why his hands moved on instinct. He flashes back to the moment that started it all, seeing a parked motorcycle with the keys still inside. The last thing he remembers is the adrenaline rush of joy riding that stolen bike, then absolute darkness. He must have crashed and woken up in this living nightmare. While his former buddy is devoured below, the boy climbs onward, sobbing heavily because he just wants to see his parents and go home. Suddenly, a flying axe cleaves through the air, putting a brutal end to his journey. Watching this horror unfold, Kim Hyuna and Lee Nara freeze in absolute terror. Standing at the peak, a bald brute holding the axe warns that anyone attempting to pass him will be slaughtered. He growls that if they want to live, they better stay down and never climb higher. Two fighters shout threats, but the brute merely dares them to try. Blinded by fury, one contestant charges straight up, screaming that he is going to make it out alive no matter what. Lee Nara realizes everyone here has lost their minds. She hoped they could unite, escape, and maybe even become friends. But that hope dies instantly as the bald psycho crushes the climber in one hit. Working together is no longer an option. Kim Hyuna sighs, admitting this brutal sight is exactly why she never wanted to climb toward the throne. Desperation turns normal people into monsters, and a psycho always emerges to take advantage. According to her, even the sanest folks lose control when pushed to the edge in this living hell. So what do you and I take from this madness? As the remaining climbers shrink back in sheer terror, the psycho scoffs, telling them to stay put while he claims the ultimate crown. All right, you and I are diving into a wild story where this thug vows revenge on his snitches. Right before the terrifying Wolfman, Nam Gunwoo, silently appears behind him. With one effortless punch, he sends the bald thug flying. The sheer power leaves everyone speechless. Gunwoo thinks it was a weak slap, but to the onlookers, he is an absolute monster. Terror grips the crowd as they witness his beastly side. It triggers a painful memory of the fox, warning him that humans will always recoil in fear when they see his true nature. Yet Lenara is different. In his eyes, her spirit shines bright and beautiful. She recognizes him instantly, and regardless of his monstrous form, she still calls him by his human name. The bloodthirsty wolf inside him demands to hunt down the rat men, but Nam begs his inner beast for control. He wants to use this power to protect and help others, just like his father taught him. He might look like a beast, but inside, he remains Nam Gunwoo. That is his real essence. Reverting to his human form, he looks back at the trembling survivors and tells them to hold on just a little longer. While Lenara stands guard to shield her friends, Nam Gunwoo charges forward, ready to obliterate the Rat King, the twisted Game Master. The Game Master Gam mockingly congratulates Gunwoo for taking first place, advising him to just grab the throne and escape this arena. But Gunwoo rejects the rules. He declares his real target is the king who trapped and slaughtered innocent people, forcing them to turn on each other. He vows to end Game's twisted amusement once and for all. But Game laughs, claiming this arena is simply a mirror of the human world, a dog-eat-dog realm fueled by pure hatred. The villain explains he was born during the Korean War, growing strong by feeding on the malice of the dying, and now he devours the souls of defeated challengers, claiming nothing tastes sweeter than a spirit soaked in spite. Furious, Gunwoo brands him a demon and demands he descend to face him. Now, watch closely, because things are about to get absolutely crazy. The Rat King laughs, calling humans the true demons before unleashing a tide of rats. But Gunwoo refuses to fall for the same trick twice, blasting them all away with a massive electric punch. Following up instantly, he drives a brutal kick into Game's face, immediately followed by a devastating thunderstrike to the chest. Gunwoo refuses to let up, raining down a barrage of furious strikes, until Game's body starts bubbling like toxic sludge. Enraged, the Rat King screams, asking if they are finally done playing, before unleashing his true form. He mutates into a colossal, deformed abomination of black slime, shrieking that human hypocrisy forged this monster pretending to be righteous on the outside while masking their deep inner rot. Tentacles lash out violently, landing a direct, bone-shattering blow on Gunwoo. Back on the sidelines, Linara watches in sheer panic, terrified that he is fighting this nightmare entirely alone. Her focus is cut short when she spots a Ratman poised to execute another player. Moving on pure instinct, she fires a glowing, pencil-shaped spiritual arrow to save the boy's life. The rescued player quickly thanks her, but Kim Huna snaps, arguing they cannot afford to save rivals who are ahead of them. Linara simply replies that she cannot stand by and watch someone die. Just then, another survivor intercepts a lethal sneak attack aimed right at Huna. Turning the tables, Linara warns Huna to stay focused. Honestly, Huna never even wanted to climb this high. She was completely terrified, knowing this sector was a far worse hell than the rest of the game. Yet, seeing Huna struggle through her fear gives Linara the strength to fight beside her. Suddenly, a boy reaches the very peak of the tower, loudly proclaiming himself the sole victor of this sick match. Linara recognizes his face instantly. "I know what you were thinking." And yeah, she immediately regrets saving this ungrateful jerk. Her massive wave of frustration starts filling the entire chamber with toxic, dark energy. Seeing him win ignites a wave of envy and fury among the other players. Some are even plotting to throw him off the peak, which is exactly what happens when a hooded figure appears and shoves him off the throne. Seeing their shot, Huna yells that they can still win. Nara dashes forward too, but suddenly halts. She pauses, questioning her desperate sprint. Is that hole in the sky actually their only escape? What lies beyond it, and who wrote these twisted rules anyway? As she ponders this, her eyes dart to the side where Nam Gunwoo is in deep trouble, taking a savage beating from the giant sludge monster, Gaiam. The beast crashes down, claiming dominion over the arena as his crushing stomp severely injures Gunwoo. Inside his mind, the wolf urges him to accept its help, but the stubborn student refuses, determined to win alone. Channeling spiritual energy into his leg, he shatters one of the monster's limbs. But the demon regenerates instantly, sending Gunwoo flying with a vicious kick. Gam boasts that he is invincible here, fed by the endless malice of humanity. Meanwhile, the inner wolf scolds Gunwoo for denying its existence. It explains they are connected like waves in a single ocean, harboring a legendary relic called the Thunderwolf. To win, he must channel the energy of dark spirits, just like the ancient hero Pong Bayak. Understanding strikes Gunwoo. He admits he feared his own dark side, worried it would devour him, but now he embraces it as a true part of who he is. Listening to the wolf, he unleashes the relic's raw power in a devastating punch. The shockwave completely vaporizes Game's massive body, forcing the stunned players to watch the Rat King dissolve inside his own realm. Nam Gunwoo declares the nightmare over. Gaim shrieks that he will return, but as the coward attempts to flee, a massive fissure tears through the dimension. Linara realizes the eerie void bleeding from the fissure is identical to the fox's realm. Suddenly, a wild theory crosses her mind. They're trapped inside Game's actual soul. Her suspicion is confirmed when they spot the monster's real, sickly body gasping and vomiting inside a glowing ritual circle. She quickly grabs a pencil and a rubber band, using her ring to fashion a makeshift bow, the same trick she used to escape the fox. If her theory holds, that hole is not their only exit. They just have to forge a new path, just like Gunwoo did. While he searches through the dissolving slime of the fallen boss, Linara pulls back her makeshift bow and shoots the pencil directly into the crack. The pencil strikes the target and erupts in brilliant light. Out in the real world, the Rat King's body mimics the glow as he shrieks in agony. The entire dimension starts to crumble. Enraged by his collapsing realm, Gaim lunges at Linara, but Gunwoo intercepts him, driving a devastating knee strike into the weakened demon, sending him crashing helplessly to the ground. Gunwoo mutters that their real battle is just starting as they clash one last time. Meanwhile, the tower shatters, leaving the remaining students struggling desperately to survive the chaotic collapse. But Linara spots something incredible. The falling debris is shifting into an escape path, and she yells that everyone can survive if they follow it. Huna hesitates, doubting the safety of the path, but Linara grabs her hand and promises they will escape together. Those warm words trigger a sudden, vivid memory from Huna's past. She remembers her lonely school days before a girl named A reached out to her. A was beautiful, smart, and incredibly popular. Sharing identical tastes, the two quickly became inseparable. With A's magnetic charm, they built a tight group where A was always the star. Huna adored her, but secretly harbored deep envy, wishing she could surpass her just once. That moment came with a major test. Huna scored 99, taking first place, while A's grades fell. You and I will find out what happens next. All right, let's unpack this brutal story. It starts when girl A gets mad, triggering the other girls to completely lock Huna out. And trust me, it only gets worse daily. Whenever she tried bringing up a boy in their chats, her friends flat out ignored her, freezing her out of the group. As the silent treatment grew, poor Hana was left completely isolated with absolutely nobody to confide in. She began spiraling, constantly wondering what she did to deserve this, as her anxiety reached dangerous levels. Then came the ultimate turning point. While she was hiding inside a school bathroom stall, she overheard her ex-friends whispering that she was a copycat, mimicking everything from A's style to her attitude. They even spread rumors saying Huna was only popular because of A's pity. Hearing those lies crushed her, and Huna began scratching her skin raw out of pure panic. But the truth was, her mother bought that outfit entirely by coincidence. She never copied anyone. Back home, she shredded the jacket, resembling A's, and begged her mother to trash it. Her worried mom asked if she was being bullied, but Huna just snapped under the immense stress. Confused by her sudden anger, her mom brought up her schoolwork, which made Huna completely explode. She screamed, asking if her grades mattered more than her actual feelings. That was when she finally confessed she had no friends left, and during a severe breakdown, she slammed her head violently against the wall. Her mother held her close, promising college would be better, but the psychological damage was already done. The following morning, A casually asked about her bruised face. Desperate to fix things, Huna lowered herself, begging to know her mistakes and apologizing just to soothe her ex-friend's ego. A then suggested clearing the air in a group chat, but it was a cruel trap. The moment Huna joined, classmates flooded the screen, calling her brainless and saying she was incredibly annoying to be around. They even ruined her memories of a fun karaoke day, calling it an absolute nightmare. Those brutal words cut deeper than physical blades, and soon, her once excellent school grades began to plummet. Convinced that everything was her own fault and her life was entirely over, she slowly walked up to the school rooftop, ready to end all her suffering. And here is where it gets crazy. Watch this closely. Just as she wonders why nobody will help her, someone shoves her from behind. Marked with the number 0, she plummets, her heart instantly filling with deep regret. She did not want her life to end like this. Suddenly, we snap back to the brutal game reality where Hana is desperately holding onto Lee Nara's hand as she gets dragged to safety. The main character screamed at her to hold on, yelling that the exit was right there. The other students rushed to help, too, and their support sparked a brand new will to live inside Huna. After surviving that endless torment, she finally discovered a reason to fight. Meanwhile, the shattered monster Gom insisted the game was officially over, but Nam Yun-woo was far from done. He swore to obliterate this entire space so the monster could never harm another soul. Charging raw lightning in his palm, he summoned the mighty Thunder Wolf, vaporizing the beast and shattering the entire arena. Driven by Yun-woo's devastating attack, the massive tower began to collapse. In the madness, a selfish survivor rushed to the throne, screaming his victory as the chair levitated. But that victory was incredibly short-lived as the entire dimension started collapsing into a massive black hole. As everyone clung on for dear life, a hopeful Kim Huna thought she might finally escape this living hell. Remembering her mother's words, she vowed to hold on just a bit longer to fix all her past mistakes. She refused to throw her life away now. But at the absolute last second, a grotesque ratman appeared, burying an axe right into her back. Lee Nara tried desperately to hold on, but Huna crashed down, whispering about her terrible luck. Nara begged her to stay strong, but time had run out. Using her final breaths, Huna apologized to her mother for being a difficult child. Feeling the warmth of Nara's hand, her spirit drifted away. Lee Nara screamed in absolute denial. As the terrifying black hole swallowed the entire world, she lunged to grab Huna's soul, but managed to snatch only a tiny fragment before everything vanished into darkness. Suddenly, the surviving students woke up back in their physical bodies in the real world. But Nara opened her eyes to find that glowing fragment of Huna's soul right in her hands, absolute proof it was real. Let's pause here, because this next part is heartbreaking. Floating right there was Huna's gentle spirit, whispering how in another life they could have met normally, shared secrets, and become true friends. They could have been best friends if fate had not been so cruel. Hearing those words, Nara broke down crying, screaming that they were already friends. Smiling, Huna whispered a final thank you before fading away. Moments later, Nam Yun-woo entered her hospital room. Sobbing uncontrollably, Nara confessed that her dear friend did not make it. The heavy guilt crushed her because she survived while breaking her promise to escape together. Gyeon-woo held her close, repeating over and over that it was not her fault. He knew the heavy burden of survivor's guilt, remembering how much he needed those exact words when his grandmother passed away. He never wanted to feel the crushing loneliness of being left behind ever again, so he did everything to ease Nara's pain. But as he comforted her, a dark, distant memory surfaced in his mind. A memory of a terrifying beastman. He wondered why this dangerous figure named Pumbake was hunting Lee Nara. Stealing his resolve, he vowed to protect Nara from Pumbake and anyone else who dared harm her. To keep this vow, he is ready to sacrifice his last shred of humanity and unleash his beast form again. Meanwhile, in a mysterious distant realm, the kid who claimed the throne genuinely believes he won the deadly game and escaped. Suddenly, he opens his eyes in a totally abandoned, silent city, completely lost. But then, he stumbles upon a massive armory of lethal weapons and a poster advertising a deadly new job for the winner. The horrifying realization hits that he has to survive all over again. Sobbing in despair, he collapses to the ground because this was never part of the deal. At the same exact time, the chief of the Ratmen, Gom, feels his physical body rapidly failing him. He is absolutely livid at the wolf who destroyed his hideout and almost killed him. Gom demands to know who let the wolf sneak into the game, but his minions deny it. When one remains dead silent, the chief assumes he is the traitor and starts slaughtering the Ratmen one by one. That is when the true traitor reveals himself. It was the wicked fox, operating in disguise this entire time. He smugly admits that he was the one who threw the kid into the game. The fox explains he can barely control his own shifting powers, so the wolf is just a distraction. He hopes the huntress's child manages to survive until his own full strength is completely restored. Far away, Pumbek stands in a wasteland of ruins, surrounded by corpses and deep shadows. A gargantuan entity, the god of calamity, demands he fulfill his oath and open the dimensional gateway immediately. In return, the god vows to turn the land of Danaan into a literal hell. Pumbake readily agrees, muttering that no matter how many times he rescues humans, they never actually change. Blinded by greed, they are nothing more than filthy insects unworthy of salvation. He declares he will purge this corrupt land to build a brand new world. But to do this, he must harvest far more evil spirits. But this terrifying prophecy was actually just a dream sent to the Beast family matriarch. Looking out her window, she instantly realizes that a powerful spirit granted her this grim vision. Suddenly, a crow spirit materializes, begging her to stop Pumbak immediately. He reveals that the monster is harvesting the souls of living humans to summon the god of calamity itself. Horrified, the matriarch wonders how anyone could commit such an atrocity. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a city bus where we meet Handon, the middle son of the Beast family, immediately drawing the attention of staring girls. He notices the stares and gets deeply annoyed, but not at the girls. He is glaring at a grotesque slime demon lurking inside the bus. Suddenly, other malevolent spirits begin swarming the surrounding cars. Out of nowhere, a bus violently crashes into theirs, injuring him. Trust me, you and I need to see what happens next. All right, you and I are jumping right into a nightmare. These soul-devouring monsters strike the victims, and Hondo realizes someone caused this crash on purpose just to harvest them. A mysterious woman watches from the shadows, urging the spirits to feast on the endless supply of human souls. Meanwhile, trapped in the wreckage, Hondo has a flash of his dark past in a freezing pigsty. Hoping it is all just a bad dream, he wakes up as a girl rushes to help him. She is relieved he is alive, but warns him that emergency services are not coming. Hondo gets up, realizing he can still move. But seeing a monster devouring souls nearby, he warns the girl that they need to escape this death trap immediately. As he helps the injured girl to her feet, an evil spirit suddenly rips the soul straight out of her body. Her terrified soul is about to be eaten alive. But before the beast can strike, Hondo's Sunbeast shields her with a stunning barrier of pure energy. With a wave of his hand, he summons more barriers that crush the monster to pieces. Trapped on the spiritual plane, she sees horrifying beasts everywhere. A massive slime monster charges at them, but Hondo effortlessly slices it in half with his energy blade. He saves her yet again, utterly annoyed that such hideous creatures dare to ruin his day. As she panics, wondering if she is dead, he gently touches her head, promises it is only a dream, and shoves her soul back in. He tells her to treat it like a bad dream that will soon fade, but those exact words trigger a deep memory. Her brother once told her the same thing during a tragedy she could never forget. Hondo then steps off the bus, warning her to stay hidden inside because the streets are crawling with demons. Outside, he confronts a far worse threat, the woman behind the summonings. She instantly realizes he is special since he survived that horrific crash. She mocks him, promising to reveal her plans right before she eats him. Feeling her overwhelming pressure, Hondo realizes he stands absolutely zero chance of winning this fight. As he looks for an escape route, she warns him not to run. She hates losing her food, and if she gets angry, she will slaughter every human in the area. Massive black legs sprout from her back, revealing her demonic form. Hondo is shocked she would transform in broad daylight, warning her that hunters are going to track her down. She simply laughs, saying she would love that since it saves her the trouble of hunting them. And then, she reveals her ultimate trap. They are already trapped in her massive spiderweb. Suddenly, the earth violently shakes as a massive sinkhole opens up, swallowing cars and tearing the street apart. Inside the bus, the girl and the passengers are dragged down into the abyss. Hondo tries to hang on, but the drag is too strong and pulls him under. On the surface, survivors stare down into the bottomless pit. In a flash, everyone within the web vanishes. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Kim Hyuna is fighting for her life. The soul fragments Lee Nara gathered are slipping away, and her hospital vitals are dropping fast. The doctors have already warned her mother to prepare for the worst. But Hyuna is still alive, trapped inside Gaim's mind and tortured by relentless, terrifying nightmares. Now pay attention, Lee Nara vows to save her friend, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, news of the massive 9 a.m. sinkhole that swallowed 92 people spreads like wildfire. Complete chaos erupts at the scene. Desperate families search for loved ones as rescue crews prepare to head down. Armed with ropes and lights, rescuers drop down. But at the bottom, 102 meters deep, they find something bizarre. The entire pit is empty. No cars, no victims, nothing. Just massive spiderwebs and a structure resembling an ancient temple. Miles away, our main character's family of elite hunters discusses the bizarre event. The matriarch believes this is the start of the Great Chaos. When Nam Gunwoo arrives, she tells him to rest, but he is too worried to leave them alone. With her signature arrogance, the matriarch claims she is the strongest. But our main character steps up, demanding to join the raid. She has to save Kim Hyuna and refuses to live with regret. Witnessing her drive, her mother agrees, and Nam Yoon-woo decides to back her up. The matriarch promises to pay both students handsomely. Meanwhile, back at the crater, the confused rescue crews are suddenly caught off guard. A new group descends, bringing portable toilets of all things. Out steps a man in a sharp suit, introducing himself as a special agent from Division 4. He orders an immediate evacuation, lying about a dangerous gas leak. In reality, they are a secret government agency tasked with investigating supernatural anomalies. Their leader, Gong Chai, gives the signal, and hunter groups begin stepping out of the portable toilets. We see the Odangan team, followed by rival exorcists and ghost hunters. You and I both know rival hunters never get along. Instantly, the matriarch and the rival clan leader start trading nasty insults. Gong Chai shuts down the bickering and gets straight to business. The mission is to hunt the monster spider. This monster is the same beast that caused the subway crash, claiming 70 lives. The bounty is a massive 1.2 billion won, and the winner takes it all. The Odangan leader immediately drools over the cash, annoying the high and mighty exorcists who find her greed vulgar with lives on the line. Without wasting a second, the groups dive into the portal. Our protagonist finds it incredibly eerie how they march toward danger without a trace of fear. Nam Gunwoo asks if she's ready, and they step through last. The other side is a dark, horrifying cavern filled with webs and corpses hanging from the ceiling. One of the bodies is so ancient it dates back to the Joseon dynasty, proving this monster has been hunting for centuries. A smug exorcist mocks the students, telling them to run home. Lee Nara fires back with a chilling remark, telling him he practically reeks of death, leaving him speechless. This clever beast disguised its mass murders as accidents to avoid detection. While a monk prays for the fallen, a priest notices the bodies are still covered in expensive gold jewelry. Despite the grim surroundings, the greedy priest cannot resist temptation and snatches a heavy gold chain off a corpse. He tries to justify the theft, quoting scripture to clear his conscience, but karma strikes instantly as a massive shadow lunges out of the dark, shocking everyone. The beast snatches Father Choi and swallows him whole, but right when the group assumes he is dead, something absolutely insane happens. Chanting a prayer from deep inside the monster's stomach, the priest literally explodes the beast from the inside out, emerging completely unscathed. And that is where we leave it as the rival teams prep for an epic clash. Trust me, you and I are not ready for this war. Alright, let's dive into the story as the leader of the Jang seizes this moment to slip ahead, leaving the others to battle the newly summoned horde. Meanwhile, the masked man barks at the students to back off, drawing talismans that seriously annoy Nam Jinyu. But there is no time to argue the monster's charge. Moving first, the monk draws a sacred mandala on the ground, creating a glowing barrier. At the same time, Father Choi channels holy energy, his fists blazing with red crosses as he punches the beasts. A veteran archer tells the priest to watch out before letting fly an explosive fire arrow, obliterating several monsters in a single shot. Then the masked man hurls his talismans, triggering a chain of devastating explosions. Yet, despite their teamwork, Father Choi admits he cannot keep up this intense pace much longer. Things get worse as the beasts breach the monk's protective barrier. With the shield cracking, panic starts spreading among the terrified students. Their leader shouts that her guardian spirit is taking far too long, desperately crying out for more time. But right when hope fades, Nam Yoon-woo steps up to shield her. Crackling with raw electricity, he decides to stop holding back. It is time to release the hidden wolf. Channeling lightning into his fist, he charges ahead to unleash his Thunderwolf strike. A giant wolf forged from pure lightning materializes, ripping through the monsters and frying them instantly. In seconds, a shockwave of energy obliterates the remaining beasts, leaving the veteran hunters absolutely stunned by his sheer power. Hoping to help, Lee Nara takes aim, but makes a critical mistake. Her spirit arrow goes completely off course, zooming straight toward Nam Jin-woo. He snaps at her for being reckless, leaving her hurt. Meanwhile, our hero realizes he just drew way too much attention. His mother had warned him that if other hunters sensed his true nature, they would hunt him down. In this world, an archer's arrow naturally tracks demonic energy, explaining why it targeted him. Staring at his transforming beast hand, he realizes the truth. Pay attention right here, because everything is shifting now. Gritting his teeth, he quickly hides his claw and claims he is totally fine. With the monsters dead, the master proposes a twisted competition to see who can kill the spider first. But the matriarch worries, knowing her own son is by far the weakest hunter here. However, Kim Oram brags about his superior strength and fame. Seeing the division, the master officially declares that all teams will hunt independently from now on. They suddenly realize the Jang Ghost Squad has already slipped away, likely to hoard all the valuable loot, which drives Oram crazy. Meanwhile, the rival team is already deep inside. Peering through binoculars, they spot the giant spider's storage warehouse. Inside, victims are trapped in sticky cocoons, kept alive in a dream state by a highly toxic tranquilizing venom. But they are not here for the monster. Their real target is a girl worth 6,015 times the spider bounty. The leader, Jang Sung, plans to deliver her to an anonymous client. While they wonder who would pay that much for a kid, the monstrous spider creeps up right behind them. It lunges with savage fury, shattering the train car they were using for cover. The hunters retreat, unleashing heavy gunfire loaded with specialized talisman ammunition, but the bullets barely scratch it. The beast easily closes the distance, instantly killing the first squad member, Hunter Kim. With his final breath, Kim triggers a powerful spectral energy grenade. The resulting blast wounds the spider, blowing his partner Jang Seung-bi clear of the danger zone. Grieving and enraged, Jang witnesses the creature's horrifying true form, a pale woman emerging from a massive skull. She laughs, calling his friend weak and boasting that ancient swordsmen tasted far better. Jang Song-bi draws a combat knife, acting like he is going to fight her head-on. The Spider Queen smiles, loving the challenge, but it is all a calculated bluff. He clicks his radio transmitter, triggering a hidden trap. Massive energy panels project a giant explosive seal right under her feet, and as it detonates, he unloads his weapons without stopping. But the beast shrugs off the blast, impaling Jang through the chest with her skull-like claws. Disappointed, she sighs that he relies way too much on cheap tricks. Defeated, Jang warns her that the other hunters will hunt her down. Let's pause here, this monster is totally unfazed. She claims she left the path open because hunters are delicious, dripping sleep venom on his face. The moment the venom touches his forehead, Jang Sung bursts into a creepy laugh before falling completely unconscious. Within minutes, his body is wrapped up and stored away in a cocoon. But inside a nearby cocoon, Hando Sunbi uses his spiritual energy to rip himself free. Waking up disoriented in the filth, he immediately crushes a baby spider that was guarding him. This horrific place triggers traumatic memories of his childhood. Since his youth, Hondo was treated like an absolute monster, a cursed demon child born only to destroy families. Desperate to escape the abuse, he ran away to another dark hell, a pig slaughterhouse. For years, he watched the helpless animals squealing in terror as they waited for their turn to die. Surrounded by those screams, he grew so detached he forgot whether he was a boy or a pig. But on the day he finally gave up, a miracle changed his life. The kind matriarch Kim rescued him, asking why he hid behind a fence as if he accepted those limits. She gave him a choice, live like a beast or walk proudly as a human. And he chose to be human. Now Hando snaps back to reality, realizing he was dragged to this spider lair after a bite to the neck. Despite the lingering venom, his thoughts are sharper and clearer than ever. He knows he has to find a way out fast, but the tunnels are pitch black and teeming with monsters. Looking around, he realizes quiet stealth is not an option he is going to have to fight. Meanwhile, the remaining Odingun squad is hopelessly lost. Realizing they are trapped in a giant pit, they regret abandoning the exorcists, fearing they just lost the 1.2 billion won bounty. Suddenly, they spot Hondo Sunbei's abandoned bag on the cold ground. Matriarch Kim is horrified to realize he is trapped inside, and the entire team rushes to find him before it's too late. Further in, Hondo discovers a massive crack in the stone wall that looks like an escape route, but stepping through, he is greeted by an absolute nightmare. Dozens of humans hang from the ceiling in cocoons, trapped in an endless sleep. This is not an exit, it is a food pantry. Seeing them helpless like this brings back painful memories of the slaughterhouse. Terror takes hold, and he desperately whispers to himself that he needs to run. But right then, he spots the little girl he saved on the bus, weakly begging him to help her. Hondo mutes her cries to avoid detection, but his efforts are in vain. The Spider Queen crawls in, muttering that someone is awake and that her sleeping venom must have been too weak. Dumping Jang Sung's body on the floor, she demands to know who is hiding. Hondo ducks out of sight, terrified by her massive size. She mutters that her last meal lacks spiritual energy, tasting totally bland. Unsatisfied, she decides to harvest another soul, peeling away the bones to feast on the flesh. Hondo watches in absolute horror, knowing a single mistake means instant death. He knows he stands zero chance against this monster and has to flee. Suddenly, a pile of bones collapses, reminding him of his past and the mental fence he built around himself. Right then, she grabs the 6 billion girl. Trust me, you and I knew Hondo couldn't stand by. Fueled by pure fury, he lunges forward with a devastating punch, screaming at her to stop eating humans. His strikes explode with raw hatred, making him think, just for a second, that it is over. All right, you and I are diving right back into the action where the spider monster's broken shell starts regenerating. She's alive, instantly recognizing Hondo as the lucky survivor from the bus crash, demanding to know how he survived her deadly poison. Hondo casually replies that he did not feel a single drop of poison, calling her hideous. He mocks her further by giving her exactly 5 seconds to try and take him down. Believing he is just bluffing, she strikes with a massive fang. The sheer force completely shatters his magic shield in an instant, blasting him straight through the air. If he takes another hit like that, he is dead. His only option is to shrink the shield by half to double its density. The monster mocks him, calling his defense fragile as glass, but Hondo remains completely confident in his plan. He confidently vows to finish her off within those 5 promised seconds. Thoroughly annoyed, the Spider Queen demands he show her some real power, because the warm-up is officially over. Summoning 2 smaller shields on his arms, Hondo begins deflecting her heavy strikes. They shatter with every single impact, but that is all part of his calculated strategy. Timing it perfectly, he dodges, leaps high, and matches her eye to eye. Using his aura as a distraction, he traps her head in a barrier and lands a devastating kick right to her stomach. The monster shatters the defense with her massive fangs, but the moment it breaks, a second barrier instantly appears underneath. It was a trap all along. Watch closely right here, because he is about to trigger his real trap, compressing the barrier to its absolute limit to shape a deadly blade, activating his signature move, the Soul Guillotine. The shield transforms into a razor-sharp blade, slashing her squarely and slamming her into the dirt. It looks like a fatal blow, but to his absolute shock, she is still standing. Smirking, she asks if his 5-second dream is already dead, mocking him because his ultimate attack could not even leave a scratch on her. She continues to gloat, claiming every arrogant hunter before him ended up rotting in her graveyard. She promises to hang his severed head as a trophy, but Hondo casually calls her a hideous old hag, making her completely lose her mind. She lashes out in a rage, and though Hondo quickly dodges using rapid shields, he cannot avoid every strike. A sharp fang catches his ankle, and 2 brutal claws pierce his arm, pinning him to the ground. Even pinned down, Hondo refuses to break. He has one final trump card left, summoning his lethal Soul Guillotine technique again, but this time with a genius twist. He forms the sharp energy blade directly under a nearby 1-ton truck. Using the heavy vehicle's crushing weight, the blade drops with immense force, cleanly slicing off her head. The explosive impact sends him flying backward, but his crazy plan worked. The monster is down. Letting out a sigh of relief, he walks over to the girl he rescued to wake her up. She wakes up completely disoriented and even compliments his handsome looks, but their peace is cut short. Suddenly, the monster's severed head sprouts tiny legs and begins crawling across the floor. Crawling back to its torso, the head reattaches as the Spider Queen asks if the girl is his girlfriend. She scoffs that she hates pretty boys, while Hondo fires back that he hates girls who use their heads as jewelry. Right then, a terrifying black sludge of corrupt spirits wraps around her, fusing her severed head completely back onto her neck. Reborn and massive, the Spider Queen transforms into a true nightmare. She slashes with deadly claws, forcing Hondo to throw up a protective barrier around them both. You might think he is finished as the toxic claws impale his shoulder, but instead, Hondo starts to smile. He realizes the poison is forcing him into a deep dream, dragging us back into his tragic past. The hallucination pulls him back to the rich family that adopted him from the orphanage. In the beginning, everything was peaceful, and he truly believed he finally had a real family. But everything shattered when they had their own biological daughter. From that day on, Hando was cast aside and completely ignored by them. He was no longer wanted. Things took a terrifying turn when they discovered his secret identity, leaving his adoptive parents completely horrified. For 4 agonizing years, they locked him in a dark basement like an animal, with a heavy chain around his neck. Starving, dehydrated, and entirely alone, his only way to survive the crushing isolation was counting the floating dust particles. The only light in his darkness was his little sister, Somi, who secretly brought him food, bravely risking severe punishment from their cruel parents just to help him. Then one day, she snuck him a key with his meal. Freeing himself, he ran out into the pouring rain. Lost and hopeless, he spotted a truck carrying pigs and realized it was the perfect place to blend in and hide his true monstrous nature. Broken and exhausted, he crawled in with the animals, deciding it was better to just live like a pig. Back in reality, the dark trauma fuels his rage. The Spider Queen is shocked to find her poison failing, realizing this boy has 0 happy memories for her venom to corrupt. Frustrated, she tosses him aside like a ragdoll. Battling agonizing pain, Hando summons a barrier, but her next brutal strike smashes through his shield, slamming him deep into the earth. He endures a brutal thrashing from her sharp legs but refuses to lose consciousness. She asks if he finally knows his place, even though he already knew this monster was way out of his league. Yet, he rises. He remembers the voice that told him to stop hiding. He once chose to live with beasts, but he has every right to stand tall and live as a human. That is why he will fight to his very last breath. Mocking his weak determination, the Spider Queen plunges a sharp fang right through the center of his chest. The strike begins tearing his soul from his body, putting him in shock. But at the absolute last second, Kim, the baddest leader of Odangan, intervenes with an epic punch. Furious, she warns the monster never to touch her beloved boy again. The impact of her strike is so devastating, the giant spider is sent crashing into the ground, completely beaten. The rest of the Odangan team arrives in style. The boss complains about her son's beautiful face getting ruined, while Hando sheds tears of joy, realizing they actually came to save him. Lyra jokes they only showed up for the cash, but the warmth of a real family is undeniable. Guihan pulls him close, and even young Nam Jin-woo tagged along. Although Nam denies ever seeing him as a brother, Hando gratefully shakes his hand. He finally feels like he belongs somewhere. Suddenly, the Spider Queen slowly stands up, thoroughly impressed. She notes she has never sensed a hunter with such overwhelming spiritual energy. Kim proudly assumes she means her, but the creature points directly past her at young Linara. The monster reveals she has never witnessed such immense power in 800 years, drooling at the thought of devouring the young girl whole. Hearing this threat, Nam Yunwoo steps forward, swearing to personally crush her with his bare hands. In response, the Spider Queen summons a creepy skeletal knight riding atop another giant spider. She reveals this was her 9th husband who betrayed her. Wrapping him in shadow energy, she turns him into a mindless puppet, ordering his skeletal army to capture Lee Nara immediately. The knight charges, and Nam Yunwoo meets him with a lightning-infused punch, but the attack barely leaves a scratch, allowing the skeleton to counter with a heavy sword slash. Kim easily blocks the blow, telling Nam to bypass the small fry and head straight for the queen, while Hando keeps Lee Nara safe inside his sturdy barrier. She fights back using her pencils from inside the unbreakable shield, but Nam Gun-woo completely misinterprets the close moment and explodes with jealousy. That's where we leave things today. But trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Alright, you and I are going to watch him lose it, smashing spider minions while screaming at Hando Sunbi. Unleashing pure rage, he destroys dozens of monsters with his lightning fists, warning Lee Nara to only trust him, not Sunbae. Furious, Nam Gun-woo then challenges the terrifying Spider Queen to step up and fight him face to face. She strikes with a massive claw, but his electric counterpunch is so devastating her limb goes completely limp before he slams her into the dirt. But the queen laughs, telling him a broken arm means nothing. Out of nowhere, her other sharp limbs pierce right through Gun-woo's body, leaving him critically wounded. Watching this nightmare unfold, his family is completely frozen in absolute horror. Yet, instead of screaming, he just smiles. A dark, echoing voice whispers that he will eventually need the wolf inside, because they are one and the exact same beast. Right before their eyes, Nam Yunwoo transforms into a massive black wolf. The queen laughs at him, but the beast instantly slams her head into the ground with one hand. The shockwave is so insane that Hando Sunbi warns Lee Nara to stay back because this creature is too dangerous. His family desperately screams for him to turn back, but he completely ignores them. Annoyed, the queen traps him in a thick web cocoon and hurls a massive bus at him. The wolf easily dodges, but as he charges back, a literal train flies out of nowhere, hitting him midair. But even that cannot stop him. Bursting right through the train walls, he continues his relentless pursuit and delivers a devastating kick straight to her head. Crashing down, the queen shrieks, realizing he is a monster just like her. She gasps that they share the exact same darkness, but he cuts her off, impaling her stomach with a single, brutal thrust. The wolf growls that she is dead wrong. She is merely the prey, and he's the predator. For the first time, she feels true, absolute terror. She tries to beg, but he tears off her sharp claws like wet paper, continuing his brutal beatdown. Terrified, the queen desperately pleads for her life as a last resort. She babbles about a new world where darkness rules and he can stop hiding, trying to speak of someone named Poon Baek, but the wolf cuts her off, throwing a devastating punch that tears out her soul essence, which he begins to devour. Just then, matriarch Kim rushes forward to push him away, stopping him from absorbing that dark energy. The wolf instantly turns on his own mother, who feels her strength draining as she holds him down. As the beast prepares to attack his mother, his older brother, Guihen, casts a red shackle spell to bind him. The matriarch prepares a knockout blow, but a bright light shines as Lee Nara runs up and hugs him from behind. She begs him to stop, reminding him the spider is dead, and saying she knows he did this to protect them. Amazingly, the hug actually seems to work. He drops to his knees as his human mind slowly returns, but it is short-lived. A second later, he grabs Lee Nara by the neck, growling that she belongs to him. He snarls that she is just another shiny target, and absolutely nobody, not even the Rat King or Poon Baek, can steal her from him. As he opens his mouth to devour her soul, a countdown hits 0, and a talisman arrow explodes against his back. A group of elite exorcists suddenly arrives, shocked to discover a demonic wolf in the area. They realize Gunwoo has been a monster this whole time. Their leader summons her guardian deity, Spirit, ordering them to execute the beast immediately. But as they charge, Lee Nara blocks their path, insisting he is not a monster, but her friend. When the priest argues that the beast was literally about to eat her, she claims he is just going through a rough puberty, leaving everyone speechless. Ignoring her, an exorcist shoots a deadly annihilation arrow. Hando Sunbi quickly summons a defensive barrier to protect his brother, yelling at them to stop. But the wolf smashes the barrier himself, grabs Lee Nara, and flees just as the spirit deity attacks. Holding the girl tight, he leaps onto the walls and vanishes into the night. His family tries to give chase, but the wolf's agility is totally superhuman. Guihan is left in the dust, doubting if he could even calm his brother down if he caught him. Running as fast as he can, Guihan clings to a tiny sliver of hope that Lee Nara, the girl in his brother's arms, can somehow soothe his wild soul. Amidst the chaos, the exorcist leader cannot comprehend why anyone would defend such an evil creature. But matriarch Kim Oren sharply cuts her off, telling them to mind their own business because her family will take care of their own wolf. She even drops a terrifying threat, promising to destroy anyone who dares to touch her children ever again. Now pay attention, because the Odangun squad has successfully captured the giant spider, proving Kim Oren is as elite as they say. Meanwhile, Hando Sunbae only cares about finding the monster's head to claim that sweet bounty cash. Kim Oren also starts panicking, dreading the loss of 1.2 billion won. Suddenly, the severed head sprouts tiny legs and tries to run away, proving to be far more resilient than expected. Enraged at being called a dirty cockroach, it charges. But Jang Hoon steps in and finishes it off with a swift knife strike. The matriarch explodes in anger, accusing Jang Hoon of trying to steal her prize. But he explains he only wanted to avenge his partner, having no intention of playing dirty. To prove his innocence, he willingly hands the spider head to Kim Oren. In reality, he has a far bigger prize in sight, the 6 billion reward for capturing the wealthy conglomerate's daughter. He would never risk that massive fortune for a petty 1.2 billion. With the fight over, Jang Hoon begins rescuing the wounded, while Hando's Sunbi watches him carry the ultra-valuable girl. Both the exorcist leader and Kim Oren watch in surprise, genuinely believing he has become a selfless, good person. Okay, I know what you were thinking, but this actually inspires the teams to put greed aside. Together, they start slicing open web cocoons to save all the trapped victims. The Special Division leader is utterly stunned to see a massive crowd pouring out of portable toilets, proving he really did hire the absolute best squads in the country. Meanwhile, far from the chaos, the wolf is finally alone with Lee Nara inside a quiet subway car. Showing zero fear, she simply asks if he plans on eating her. The wolf snarls that nobody else is allowed to harm her, but if necessary, he will devour her himself. Unexpectedly, Nara just hugs him, giggling that his fur is super soft. Stunned, he asks if she is not terrified, but she says she trusts the real Nam Yun Woo. Trying to scare her, the wolf grabs her shoulders, growling that he is not the sweet boy she once knew. Nara playfully jokes, asking if this is the part where he turns back into a human, like in fairy tales. But the wolf growls back that in fairy tales, this is where the girl gets eaten. Completely unfazed, she pulls out a spiritually charged ruler and thrusts it into his chest, commanding the beast to leave and her friend to return. The massive energy surge triggers a blinding explosion of light, forcing him to transform back. Seeing the flash from afar, Guihan fears he is too late. He bursts into the subway car expecting a disaster, only to find his human brother resting peacefully on Nara's lap. Up on the surface, the entire situation is finally contained. Fortunately, the Spider Queen's venom wiped out the memories of all the witnesses, making cleanup a breeze. Kim Oren is highly praised for her absolute efficiency. Experts explain the beast was a Mongolian species brought over long ago. And that is where we leave it, as our team happily claims their massive reward. Trust me, you and I are definitely going to want to see what happens next. Let's dive into this wild ride where Kim Oren is already dreaming of luxury clothes, rent, and a fancy apartment. But just as she celebrates, Gong drops by with the worst news time to pay for the damages. He deducts 300 million for a wrecked factory, 400 million for subway damage, and another 200 million just for using special items. So out of 1.2 billion, she is left with a measly 300 million. Furious, she calls him a thief. Meanwhile, far from this chaos, Lee Sumi learns her father, the chairman, wants to see her. She is shocked, thinking he had no idea she even ran away. Just then, Ando Sununi approaches, asking why she fled and why he worked so hard to protect her. He mentions this is not their first meeting, and urges her to go home to her worried family. But as he turns to leave, Leomi suddenly recognizes him, the foster brother she lived with, trapped like pigs. She feels a deep ache for the scars his adoptive parents left on him, but seeing him well brings her peace, and since they are no longer family, she wonders if she can love him differently. Her words trigger Hondo Sumbi, dragging him right back into his darkest memories, a suffocating pit he can never escape. But amidst the shadows, he remembers the day he met Kim Oren. She found him right after his escape, asking if he had a place to go. With no family or home, he stood frozen. That was when the kind matriarch offered to become his new mother. This beautiful memory gives him the strength to rise above the darkness, deciding which past to hold onto. Just as he heals, Kim Oren arrives, beaming, shouting that they can finally go home. Knowing he actually has a home to go back to warms Hando's heart, the matriarch pulls him into a warm hug, promising a delicious home-cooked dinner the moment they arrive. For the first time, he feels the true joy of having a real family. Meanwhile, the scene shifts back to the chairman, who is notified of his daughter's arrival. Now, watch closely here because the tension in this room is absolutely suffocating. Lizumi finally faces her father, looking completely exhausted after surviving a crash and a sinkhole, bluntly telling him he has no right to care. Enraged, the chairman strikes his own daughter across the face, absolutely furious that she dared to run away and drag their prestigious family name through the dirt. Tsunumi stands her ground, calling him out for acting so bizarrely, especially since her mother has been mysteriously locked away in a hospital for 3 whole years. She barks that he never visits his wife and neglects his own child, demanding to know if he even remembered her birthday was yesterday. His response is pure, violent rage. He slaps Tsunumi again, raising a heavy club to strike her down. But a suited man grabs his arm. This is Pung Baek, stepping in to say she has clearly learned her lesson. He warns her to fall in line, since her father is destined for greatness and cannot afford any embarrassment. The chairman then reveals a Mr. Kim helped track her down, demanding she show some gratitude. But Sumi knows the bitter truth. Pung Baek is the puppet master who ruined her entire life. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Nam Jin-woo gently treats the claw marks he left on Lee Nara's neck. Choked with guilt, he explains that his inner beast completely took over, offering her a deeply heartfelt apology. Nara gently forgives him, insisting the wolf is the only one to blame here. But Jun-woo admits the wolf is still a part of him, swearing he will never lose control again. Suddenly, her bandage slips off, and as he gently reapplies it, the air between them turns thick with tension. You feel that spark, right? Her heart hammers as she looks at his face, while he is completely captivated by her. The distance vanishes, and they slowly lean in for a kiss. Suddenly, the doorknob rattles. It is Lee Nara's mother, demanding to know why the lights are out. Panicked, Gun-woo dives straight under the heavy blankets. Nara quickly scrambles for an excuse, claiming she was already half asleep and that the deep male voice was just a YouTube video. But her mother remains highly suspicious, pointing out that her daughter is acting strange and her messy room is suddenly spotless. Giving her a knowing look, she teases that Nara has definitely snagged a boyfriend. While Nara frantically denies it, Gunwoo, shivering under the sheets, accidentally breathes right on her stomach, tickling her. Nara squiggles desperately to hold in her giggles, but accidentally drives her knee straight into his chin with a loud thud. Her startled mother demands to know what that noise was, leaving Nara with no choice but to yank the covers away. To absolute shock, instead of a handsome young man, a massive black wolf is sitting on the mattress. Gyun-woo breathes a sigh of relief, having successfully shifted just in time to save his secret. Nara quickly bluffs, telling her mother that this giant beast is just a classmate's dog, but when her mother reaches out to pet him, the wolf issues a low growl, earning a swift, warning tap on the head from Nara. She slips up, calling him Nam Gunwoo, but quickly corrects it to Munchie. You and I know they are far from safe.